It is still being recovered, but all lanes on the highway have been reopened. So that big backlog and the divert via the ramps has been lifted and cleared. And Cape Town already very slow out of Mitchell's Plain. You've got major upgrade works on both AZ Berman and the M7 Jake Skirville Drive at the same time. And both of those routes fully loaded as you go slowly out of Mitchell's Plain, queues towards the R300 junctions. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket. The Proteas women book their place in the T20 World Cup final after an 8-wicket win over Australia. And in soccer news, Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero has assured that they've got enough cover for the injured Nigerian international Olisanda. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Friday, the 18th of October, 2024 has dawned. It's just gone 7 minutes after 6. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. Well, there are a number of issues that have developed over the last 24 hours since you and I last spoke, and I wonder you might be wanting to reflect on those. And the number to dial for that is, and always is, 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes, and the number for that is 061 410 4107. Among the highlights of the last 24 hours, President Cyril Ramaphosa was in Parliament yesterday answering a plethora of questions. This included, of course, questions around developments around the Justice Minister Thembi Simelane, and a bit of pressure being applied by members of Parliament who were saying that you received this report an account from the Minister of Justice last month, Mr. President. How far are you with regard to making a decision on the future of the Justice Minister? He answered that question by basically saying that, quote, with the active participation of the Minister, and I said that I requested the Minister to report to me on what happened. That document report has been submitted with various annexures, and that is a matter that I am giving consideration to. So the President, indications at least are that he will soon announce what his decision is around what the Minister of Justice, Thembi Simelane, told him around this issue of the 575,000 rand loan that she received from a company that brokered the Polokwane municipality's investment into VBS. There was an unlawful investment into VBS. So how long is a piece of string? We don't know really how far the President is on settling this issue. You might want to reflect on that. I'm putting that on the table. Feel free to put more other issues on the table. You will have seen, of course, the other big story in politics, at least, of the last 24 hours, news of the resignation from Parliament of Fana Mokoena, the acclaimed actor who's been an EFF MP for the last few years. He's since resigned from Parliament and also resigned from the EFF's Central Command team. This in the same week, of course, that we saw Busisiwe Mkhwebane resigning, but also the backdrop for it all was the resignation of Floyd Shivambu, who was the EFF deputy president. You might want to weigh in. I don't know what your thoughts are about the significance of all of this, and also a reminder earlier on in a conversation that Elvis Preslin was having just before we came on air, before this show started, that Julius Malema did say that he does expect that many others may follow suit in resigning. Maybe I'm confining it to politics, but feel free to put other matters on the table on those numbers that I've given you. But coming up in this show over the next 3 hours, we'll touch a bit on this announcement by the Zimbabwean government that it will start compensating white farmers whose land was seized in the early 2000s as part of that country's land reform program. Government there says it has cleared over 400 former commercial farm owners to receive payments for improvements made on the land before they were evicted. And I've got to tell you, when I was based in Zimbabwe, I did cover a bit of that, some of the land seizures that were taking place, and I sort of got a sense of how the autonomy of it, not autonomy, but how it works, the mechanics of a land seizure at the time, and the impact thereof, and just spoke to some of those farmers and how it all played out. So you might want to reflect on that, the Zimbabwean government saying that it will start compensating those farmers. We'll also talk a bit about the financial troubles of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme with the administrator, Freeman Nomvalo, due to speak to me in this show. Of course, we have all of the regulars lined up for you. Musa with your news updates every half hour. We have Rob Byrne with your traffic updates every 15 minutes or so. Zai Khan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela will have your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update, and that's coming up just before 8 a.m. And as I said, we are taking your calls. The number 086 000 2032. We also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The Friday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
These are the weekend shows on SAFM. Music of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. The Jet Set Breakfast with Michelle Constant. Seasons with Khomotso KG Mweketsi. The Soundtrack of Your Life with Ernest Pillay. Weekend Soundowner Classics with Kutlwano Masote. Spotlight with Zai Khan. The Weekend with John Gerika. Rhythm of Africa with Shayla Ndikumana. This is SAFM. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
All right, for that, let's turn to Ann Musa. Good morning to you, Ann.
Good morning to us. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
Are you excited?
Yeah, I'm
it's Friday
excited.
Today?
I'm wearing my Chelsea shirt.
Ah, good. Chelsea.
We burn blue, Ann.
Okay, yeah.
All
Man
right, that
City,
aside.
it shall stay.
Man City, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. That's fair enough. How's it looking on the diary?
Okay, now I'm thinking soccer to us. Okay, let me get back to myself. Well, stories that we're looking stories that we're looking at today. The ANC Limpopo held a memorial service for the former finance minister and Reserve Bank Governor Tito Mboweni. Final preparations underway, looking at activities ahead of the funeral that's happening tomorrow. President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the eulogy. And in Bronkhorstspruit, community members shut down shops allegedly selling expired goods. This after 6 children were hospitalized, and this morning residents of Zitobeni Township outside of Pretoria are expected to march to the city centre, where they vowed to shut down warehouses that are said to be selling food that are causing learners to fall sick. And the protest and looting of shops as well belonging to foreign nationals also spreading to Vanderbijl Park in the Vaal, and the looting we know had been concentrated in Sharpeville, that's also in the Vaal. However, it is believed that the unrest there was sparked by the murder of a South African businessman, allegedly by a foreign national. In courts today, the 4 suspects arrested in connection with the Lusikisiki mass murder are expected to appear, and the National Police Commissioner Fani Masimula saying that they are still pursuing one more suspect in connection with that massacre, and more arrests are not unlikely. The lead investigator in the Senzomiwa murder trial, Brigadier Kananda, is expected back on the stand this morning, and yesterday he told the court that he believes the accused in court are responsible for the Bafana Bafana captain's murder, and this is despite conflicting theories about what actually happened on that fateful night where the soccer star was murdered. 5 men on trial at the High Court in Pretoria for Mehiwa's 2014 murder. And also developments with regards to the arrest of the Limpopo police officer, Sergeant Rachel Kutumela, and 2 more arrests were made yesterday. It is the sergeant's daughter as well as her sister. They are appearing in court today, also facing various charges, which includes murder, fraud, and money laundering. And this is related to the 6 insurance murder cases. So some of the stories that we are focusing on this morning.
Yeah, I did catch a bit of that Senzo Meyiwa trial yesterday and the testimony of the investigating officer. It's quite interesting, some of the dynamics that he was revealing between the DPCI, the Hawks, and the cold case unit of which he is a part, and basically that there were some differences. One believing that there were no intruders and the shooter was among the people who were inside the house. There was the DPCI component of the team, and then the team from the cold case unit basically holding the theory that no, there were actually intruders. So it would seem the team from the cold case unit are the ones whose theory won the day. Yeah.
Seemingly so.
At least we're getting somewhere, it would seem.
Are we getting somewhere?
I don't know. Just hoping we are. And Musa there, watching All Things News for you, and we'll give you updates every 30 minutes or so here, every 30 minutes actually, here on the Morning Brief. And of course, you can catch those stories and others that Anne highlighted across all our platforms here on SAFM and the SABC News.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Hey folks, it's starting to look up, right? It's starting to feel like spring. It's starting to look like spring in Joburg, of course, with all the trees. And it's said that it's one of the largest man-made urban jungles, and you're starting to see the sun's rays caressing those trees beautifully in the morning. The shimmer as you wake up very early, it's starting to look really beautiful, at least from my vantage point here at Radio Park at SABC. So let me give you a sense then of how it's looking across the country as far as the weather is concerned. And in fact, we only have a fire danger warning. It says that extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the Sianguma and Kgatelopele local municipalities in the Northern Cape. Other than that, the rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria is partly cloudy with isolated afternoon thunder showers with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 30. Johannesburg is partly cloudy with isolated afternoon showers and thunder showers, 13 to 27. Mbombela is fine in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 13 to 30. Bulukwane is fine, becoming cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers in the evening with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 29. Mahikeng will be fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 32. Bloemfontein will be fine and windy with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 27. Kimberley, fine and windy, 11 to 29. Cape Town will be cloudy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon. The wind will be moderate to fresh southerly with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 18. Gqeberha is partly cloudy at first, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and rain. The wind will be moderate to fresh southwesterly, becoming light to moderate southeasterly from the afternoon with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 20. East London will be partly cloudy in the morning, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and rain, with the wind being moderate to fresh southwesterly with a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 22. Durban is cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers. The wind will be light northerly in the early morning, otherwise moderate to fresh southwesterly with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 22. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 22.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Bayede!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
And so close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out, and Bumo, they've done it again! Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So for that then, let's bring you an update on one of the major conflicts that are playing out in the world today. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has presented his long-anticipated victory plan to that country's parliament, and that happened on Wednesday. Zelensky told lawmakers that the plan, which consists of 5 points, would be a bridge towards future peace talks with Russia. The plan also outlines provisions to strengthen Ukraine's defense, implement a non-nuclear strategic deterrence package, and grow Ukraine's economy. For more then on this conversation, I'm joined on the line by Abel Esterhazy, who is Professor of Strategy, Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University. Good morning to you, Abel. I've got to thank you for your time. So this strategy, Prof, has at its heart an invitation that Zelensky is hoping will be extended to join NATO, which would be a precursor to full NATO membership. Is it much of a strategy if the very first pillar rests on an event and eventuality NATO members and leaders have shown no appetite for?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think what is important here is that we need to consider the audiences that Zelensky is speaking to here. And I think there's 3 audiences. The first, obviously, is NATO and the West in general that is supporting the Ukraine war effort. The second is Russia. And then the third, the people of Ukraine. And, there's that lighthearted way of explaining the purpose of NATO as keeping the Russians out, the Americans in, and the Germans down. And I think this plan of Zelensky is pretty much precisely that. It is to keep the Russians out, and it is sending a strong message to the Russians that we will continue with this fight. It is to keep NATO and the European Union and the West in general in to support and to continue to support the war effort in Ukraine. And it is perhaps sending a message to the Ukraine population that you need to understand that we are to continue with this fight. And I think that's the essence of what Zelensky is trying to do here with this plan. Whether he is succeeding in doing it, that's up for debate. And I think it's more a case of communicating his vision, his intention, how he wants to see the outcome of this conflict unfolding, than a plan for how we're going to do it. It's more an end state than a pathway, if I can explain it like that.
Yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying. If we focus a little bit on the second pillar of the plan, it talks about strengthening Ukraine's defense, including improving air defense systems. That's one part of the second point. But the other part of the second point of the plan is to push for Ukraine's allies to ease their restrictions around the use of long-range missiles to hit targets deep inside Russia. And I would say, and I don't know how what you think of this, Prof, that the first part maybe including the improvement of air defense systems, but the second part surely not. The permission to strike targets deeper into Russia. There's been no appetite for that among the countries that are allies of Ukraine.
Yeah, well, there's 2 points we ought to make here. The one is that this is the area where Russia is really vulnerable, because we have seen the Ukrainians being relatively successful in targeting the Russian petro infrastructure and the Russian economy, and the part of the Russian economy that is really helping them to sustain the war. And so this is the area where Russia is really vulnerable, and where Ukraine may have a chance of success. But it's also the dangerous pathway, because it carries within itself the possibility of broadening the war, of escalation. And I think the Western allies, by implication, is very cautious not to escalate this war, not to escalate the war at least to the point where they will directly become involved. And so, on the one hand, Ukraine wants to defend itself defensively with the air defense system. But on the other hand, it is quite clear that it wants to gain a little bit of maneuver here, of freedom of maneuver to attack Russia where it is vulnerable. And, of course, that makes the Western support group somewhat uncomfortable, because they don't want to broaden the war.
And lastly, Prof, the other element of the strategy I'd want to tease out is the pillar that talks about negotiations, but negotiations that, the Ukrainian president is saying that the word justice must not be missing from all talk of diplomacy. So he says he wants honest diplomacy. Is that part of the reason why we are seeing these incursions that he's been undertaking, that Ukraine has been undertaking, at least ground forces, into Russian territory, even as they are under pressure from Russia making inroads on the Eastern Front?
Well, I think the point we shouldn't miss here is that Ukraine wants to negotiate on their terms, and I think that's the takeaway for me from that particular point. That it is willing to negotiate, but it will negotiate on its own terms, and it won't entertain the idea that Russia ought to keep what it has taken from Ukraine up until now, and in particular not what Russia has done in terms of war crimes, and we can have a long debate about the Russian way of war here, but that we couldn't or that we cannot ignore the way in which Russia has fought this war and is still fighting this war. And I think that's the underlying message here. We're going to negotiate on our terms, and we're definitely not going to ignore the way that Russia has been fighting this war.
All right, Prof. Thank you so much for your time and your insights this morning. That's Professor Abel Esterhazy, who is Professor of Strategy at the Faculty of Military Science at Stellenbosch University. Time now for us to check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Institute for Security Studies says targeting gun-related crimes will make South Africa safe. The institute held a seminar in Pretoria to discuss the prevalence of gun-related crimes and how police can be empowered to respond to them. A suspect in the killing of the water general manager of the Mangaung Metro Municipality in Bloemfontein is still at large. 48-year-old Luzuko Ntlabezo was gunned down at the municipal regional offices in Rocklands yesterday. And 2 more suspects arrested in connection with the Limpopo police officer Rachel Kutumela's insurance murder cases will jointly appear with the accused in the Polokwane Magistrates Court in Limpopo this morning. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, we're tracking on-off delays on the R21 leaving the airport en route towards Pretoria this morning. A truck crashed there late yesterday afternoon, early part of the evening, still being recovered. The road was closed earlier with traffic diverted. Then they sort of reopened it, but there's now some queuing pressure again just going into that area. You've got some roadworks that are going on anyway, but also that truck crash. It looks like there's maybe some additional lane closures that have gone in just around that recovery operation. If you're on your way to Pretoria, expect some delays. The N1 South looking a bit busier than it normally is for a Friday as you come down through Midrand. A bit of queuing pressure approaching Olifantsfontein. Durban looking generally okay. The run through Spaghetti Junction towards Westwood Mall just starting to build up. Cape Town very busy this Friday on the N2 from the airport through towards Hospital Bend. That's a very slow. Mitchell's Plains M7 queuing just as heavy as it does Monday to Thursday, even though we're on a sort of easier Friday. The M7 out of Mitchell's Plain up through the roadworks towards the R300 is quite a heavy backlog. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hi, Manzai. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You know what? Make some noise for the Protea women.
Woohoo!
Come on.
What? Queens.
We're in there.
The mighty Australia sent them packing back.
That is amazing. That is just and I know our voices are all over the place and the technical producers are stressed and stuff, but come on. Protea women fire.
Oh, wow, Thulas. I mean, you know what? Absolutely. I have to agree with you. Aussies, they got caught in the Proteas web, and we're witnessing a power shift here in women's cricket. It seems the Aussies dethrone, Proteas stepping into the spotlight. South Africa is rising when it comes to not just cricket, but let's celebrate these women. Proteas women stunning Australia, reaching the T20 World Cup final. Annika Bosch played the innings of her career, scoring an unbeaten 74 off 48 balls. Bosch, alongside captain Laura Wolfart, led South Africa to a convincing 8-wicket victory with 16 balls to spare. Chasing 135, the Proteas finished on 135 for 2, dismantling the Australian bowling attack. Earlier, South Africa's bowlers, spearheaded by Ayabonga Kaka, with 2 for 24, restricting Australia to 134 for 5. Now, this emphatic win sets up South Africa for a showdown either against New Zealand or the West Indies in Sunday's final. Let's hear from Annika Bosch now.
My heart is racing a lot, and it was quite tough out there, but I'm really glad we could get over the line and that I could finally contribute with some runs. Yeah, we knew we were capable of it, and we had a pretty good tournament so far coming into this game, and we were quite confident. I think our batters, like Taz and Wolfie up front, has been incredible for us this tournament, and also our bowlers has been really, really good. And I think to restrict Australia to under 40 today was really well done by our bowlers.
Soccer news. Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero has assured that they've got enough cover for the injured Nigerian international Olisa Ndah. Speaking to the media ahead of their last 16 Carling knockout game this weekend against Magesi FC, Rivero says in the MTN 8 final they have already played without Ndah and did well. He says they'll be looking for the same performance from their players.
The good thing is we lost CBC, but we have Olisa on the bench. You know, it's well, you can see his level. He's ready. We obviously we have, like in many positions, doubts during the week because it's been a long period for Olisa out of the field. He came back against Chiefs in a derby and didn't finish the way we wanted. And after that, he got injury again.
Now, Liverpool face a major test of their Premier League credentials this weekend as they take on fourth place Chelsea at Anfield. Liverpool have won 6 out of 7 games so far, but with Chelsea unbeaten in their last 7 matches, it's set to be a tough contest. Meanwhile, the pressure mounting on Manchester United boss Erik ten Hag, who desperately needs a win against Brentford to avoid further speculation about his job security. United have had their worst start to a season since 1989 and sit in 14th place. All eyes will be on Old Trafford and Anfield this weekend. And finally, tennis action. Grigor Dimitrov advancing to the Stockholm Open quarterfinals, beating Quinton Hellis 7-6, 6-3. He'll next face Dominic Stricker. And the top seed Andrei Rublev advancing to the quarterfinals of the Stockholm Open, beating France's Alexandra Miller 6-4, 6-1. He'll next face Stan Wawrinka. That's your sport on the morning brief. We'll have more at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
And for that, let's say good morning to Ntaoleng Lechela. Good morning to you, Ntaoleng. So I see that Christine Lagarde has been talking about not having achieved complete victory against inflation, but close to breaking inflation's neck and therefore confident to make a move as far as interest rates are concerned.
That's right, Thulasizwe. Good morning to you. The European Central Bank cutting rates again. That cutting cycle really gaining traction over in Europe. It's reduced rates for a third time this year. Policymakers cut rates by 25 basis points in an attempt to boost the European economy. And, of course, it comes as inflation cools faster than expected, dipping below the central bank's target of 2%. Now, this move was the first time the ECB cut rates at 2 successive meetings since it started the process of lowering borrowing costs in response to declining inflation. From its peak of about 4%, the ECB has lowered rates since June, leaving its benchmark deposit facility at 3.25%. Now, while this was welcome, the economists have sounded the alarm, saying they are only expected policymakers to reduce rates again in December. And so the latest cut hints at some panic over growth in the corridors of the ECB. The European economy is slowly recovering after narrowly skipping a recession last year. In 2024, growth has been steady but very tepid. They're recording numbers similar to South Africa. Now, the latest GDP figures show that economy only grew 0.3% in the second quarter.
And over in the United States, the economy is front and center in sharp focus ahead of the elections there. And I see that the retail sales remain strong there.
That's right. So while Europe's economy, struggles to gain steam again, the U.S. economy continues to power through seemingly, with the latest retail sales print showing that consumer spending remains healthy. For September, sales increased 1.7% on an annual basis and 0.4% month-on-month. The reading was in line with economists' estimates and signals a strong finish to the third quarter. For that period, in particular, spending rose 2.3%. Now, the largest positive contributors to the print are non-store retailers, driven by e-commerce growth, posting an annual gain of 7.1%, while food services increased by 3.7%. These gains suggest strength in online shopping and dining out, although inflation and high interest rates remain a potential challenges for consumer spending. Now, the print also suggests that consumer confidence and spending power may be on the rise, contributing to the overall economic health of the nation. Further easing fears of the recession in the world's largest economy. Now, consensus, of course, is for a soft landing, and so economists expect smaller rate cuts from the Fed moving forward.
Lastly, please give us a recap of the markets here at home in Asia and the United States.
The U.S. markets ending on a positive note. The Dow Jones reached an all-time high due to strong economic reports, particularly that retail sales print calming recession worries. The S&P 500 almost broke its record, driven by a resurgence in artificial intelligence stocks, but ultimately fell short by the end of trade. The JSE, in the meantime, not as upbeat, ending trade mixed. The all share, though, gaining 0.2%. This was particularly boosted by a 2.5% jump in the resources 10 complex. That indice extending gains recorded on Tuesday. In currency markets, the rand making slight gains. Yesterday, it hit 17.70, but this morning it's retraced those losses. It's currently sitting at 17.64 against the dollar. Shifting focus to Asia, markets pretty mixed on that front as well, as traders digest GDP numbers and inflation data out from Japan.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauleng Lechela with the first of her 3 updates for you on the economy, business, as well as the markets here at home and around the world here on The Morning Brief.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Red Devils are well aware that the only way to find the path to the top is to ensure they triumph against Brentford.
And so close from Casemiro.
However, the visitors are confident that the Bees will be all over at Old Trafford.
West Ham struggling to get out of Bumo. They've done it again. Another goal inside the opening minute. How do they keep doing it?
This is the Premier League. Do not miss out on thrilling action between Manchester United FC and Brentford FC on Saturday, 19 October at 3:30 p.m. live on SABC3. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, I want to take a quick call before going to the next story. Of course, we'll be talking in a moment about the Zimbabwean government's plan to compensate farmers who lost land during the country's land reform program. But I want to take a quick call. Let me see if all right, I think we've lost the caller. It was Bramoro, I think in Mangaung. But we'll try and get Bramoro back and take that conversation forward. And I think he wanted to talk, Bramoro wanted to talk about the EFF. Of course, the issue that we raised earlier on was about the EFF resignations. In fact, I see we've got Bramoro. Good morning to you, Bramoro. What do you want to say about the EFF and the resignations we've been seeing?
Yeah, good morning, sir. Please, firstly, are you related to the Justice Minister?
No. We share a surname. Simelane Mpembe Mnguni, Ndlebeti Mchewane, but yeah, there's no direct relationship.
No problem. Thank you for the clarification. You know, we need to applaud the EFF also. They've managed to transform South Africa's political landscape and also the African terrain. But it's unfortunate that at the end of the day, EFF keeps on losing numbers. Maybe it's about the right time for the Julius Malema to take a bold step back reflect on the legacy that he's about to lose instead of leaving behind, and probably reframe his message to the public. You know, having Malema serving in Parliament as an MP representing the EFF and also a Pan-Africanist championing the betterment of Africa, it's wonderful. We can only wish him nothing but the best. But unfortunate incident whereby his own members, not just ordinary members, but integral part who are just resigning in the masses, all credit goes to MK for deflating the ability of the EFF. But I'll be very happy if Malema can probably break the silence by coming out to speak, address the public, and let us know his game plan. Is he completely dismantling the party? Because you cannot survive, especially currently he doesn't even have a deputy president or a running mate. So it would be only fair for him to address the public, assure us that, yes, players come, players go, but the name Mamelodi Sundowns will forever remain. Likewise, many radio stations will pop in, but SAFM will always be the leading station across Africa.
You see now,
Thank you, Mr. Simelane.
Thank you very much. I love what you just said. Thank you so much. That's Pramoro there, reflecting on the EFF and talking about the legacy of Julius Malema and the leadership, and basically, from what I heard, a bit of goodwill there from Pramoro for the EFF leader and the EFF, and saying their role is important in South Africa's body politic. Let's turn to this now. The Zimbabwean government...
You are listening to The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
The Zimbabwean government says it will begin compensating white farmers whose land was seized in the early 2000s. In a statement on Wednesday, the country's government announced it has cleared over 400 former commercial farm owners to receive payment for improvements made on the land before they were evicted. Under an accord signed in 2020, the government agreed to compensate some 4,000 white farmers whose land was seized by war veterans, but it has repeatedly missed payment deadlines. Let's speak to Dr. Ibo Mandaza now, who is a Zimbabwean academic, author and publisher. Good morning to you, Doc. It's been a while since we last spoke. So this promise, I first heard it during President Emmerson Mnangagwa's inauguration speech in 2018. And now are we seeing the implementation finally of that?
Well, I don't think so. I think it's still a long way to go. The big question is where will the money come from?
That is the question. That is the question. What are you hearing? What is the finance minister saying about making the money available for this kind of compensation?
I don't know. It's a complex situation. I think it's all linked to the debt relief strategy that they've been discussing for some time. And in other words, the Western countries insisting on compensation as part and parcel of resolving the debt issues attended to the Zimbabwean situation. As you know, our debt is very large. I think there's a dispute as to the exact figure. Some say 21 billion, but others say up to $30 billion debt, and it's growing every day. And the intercession of people like Shisano were brought in last year, and the ADB, to try to find a way forward of settling the debt, and if possible also removal of sanctions, but all that is linked, of course, to the principle of compensation, which has been central throughout.
Yeah.
And a big but. Last night we had a discussion on the land question in Zimbabwe, and the title was Zimbabwe's Land Question Compounded. And whether the latest laws, in fact, complicate the matter further, by which I mean under the fast-track land reform of 2000, if you remember, there have been A2 and A1 schemes. A1 was mainly for communal areas, and A2 were the commercial farms, most of which, or all of which, were given to the Zimbabwe elite, political elite, military elite. And now, 2 weeks ago, government announced that that these people could have freehold title and can sell the land, which they got for free. Very controversial. So we're a very complex situation at the moment.
Lastly, Doc,
not to mention the issue of compensation. And some of us were saying last night, compensation should be paid by the former colonial power, especially since in Lancaster, the idea was that the familiar decolonization principle should be applied, as happened in Kenya or Zambia, where the former colonial power bought out the white settlers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last point I wanted to tease out was, can the talk of compensation be read as an acknowledgement of perhaps some missteps in the land reform program, or is it really about the practicality and convenience of dealing with the question of debt that you raised earlier on, Zimbabwe's international debt?
Well, I think it's essentially the principle of compensation goes back to the Constitution, and it's a major feature in international relations, property rights, you know. And you don't play around property rights in a situation in which the Western powers who govern the world, the capitalist world, regard compensation as a key principle which cannot be abrogated. And if you mess around with that, they'll punish you for it. This has been the situation throughout, way back to the Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dr.
Sorry,
Ibo.
I've got flu and
no, I can
my
hear.
Voice. Yes.
I can hear. Get well soon, Dr. Ibo Mandazade, a Zimbabwean academic, author, and publisher.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
There's a very heavy traffic in Pretoria this morning on the mighty Mabopane Highway. It is a lot worse than normal, which is interesting because it's a Friday and things are generally a lot easier. But if you're in from Shoshonguve side, taking the Mabopane Highway, just note the traffic is, starting to queue right back to Theo Martin's. From there, through the hairpin bend, down through Bremer Street and onto Eske and Pathlali. There's just been a crash now on the N1 South before Olifantsfontein. That route was moving okay this morning, but it is going to backlog now. The crash between Samran and Olifantsfontein Road, and truck crash recovery still underway on the R21. It is having an impact again. R21 north up towards the Benoni exit. There's also roadworks here. If you're on your way out of the airport area, on your way towards Pretoria, the R21 up towards that R23 exit is quite heavily backed up. Durban, some pressure into Pinetown, the M7, St John's Avenue Bridge looking busy, and Cape Town fairly normal in terms of volumes this morning. It really is quite busy. The N2 inbound sitting from the airport right through to Mowbray Main. There is a crash around Langa. All lanes open at that scene, but it will be on looking factor, but it's just a very busy run through. Baden-Powell's queuing from Mitchell's Plain through to Coastal Park. The run through Strandfontein looking quite heavy, and the M7 with those roadworks underway up by the R300. The M7 this morning queuing heavily from Westgate side of Mitchell's Plain. Big spillover onto Velta Frierden Road up into Philippi as motorists go and clog up that route to try and beat the delays on the M7. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge will be taking over the Western Cape. Join us for the 1 hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 25th of October 2024 at the SABC Cape Town M1 Studios, where the University of Cape Town will be taking on the University of the Western Cape in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. RSVP to info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let's hear from you then on some of the issues that are exercising your mind this morning. Sydney is in Akonhoek, and you want to talk to me about the 100 days of the Government of National Unity. Avshen, Sydney.
Good morning, brother. Thulasizwe. It's me, Sydney, the level in Akonhoek, Bushwa, Griffin, Komik, and Felix Elevo. Brother Thulasizwe, we are seeing some kind of success in the first 100 days of the GNU. Nothing is perfect. But as South Africans, let's support the GNU because it is a better movement that bring us together as all of us, black, white, colored, and Indians. Even when you look at the cabinet, it's a true reflection of the people you find in South Africa. I support the GNU. Nothing is perfect, I've said it. All challenges, let's deal with that on the table. I wouldn't support any formation force that is against a certain racial group, like black force maybe against white or white against black, black against colored. That one I want. And let us be careful of that. Look at Zimbabweans are trying to correct the wrongs that have been back in 2000. That former President Mugabe, who has a poor judgment of things, forgetting that even if you are a good politician, but there's the economy, people still have to eat. They are all over. So as South Africans, let's not make a mistake of pushing maybe white aside or Indians aside or colored aside or blacks aside. Sure. We are better off when we are together in the form of GNU.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. That's Sydney out in Akonhoek there, weighing in on the GNU, an enthusiastic supporter and calling for more people to support it. Mukwena in Rustenburg, you want to talk to me about Pulemabe and stepping aside from NEC activities. Good morning to you.
Thulasizwe, good morning. Let's commend Pulemabe for the decision that he took, that after he's been charged, he saw to it that he should step aside from being the NEC member of the ANC. I think he did not want to tarnish the name of the ruling party. We commend him for that. Though I still have some worries about the president, who is having pala on top of his head, and he does not want to relinquish power. Whereas you can see the man that after his term of office, I'm saying this, after his term of office, we will have the president going to court. Mark my word. Sure. Remember this. That one is quite 100% for sure. The man is a liar. He comes out and he said that he doesn't know who has funded him. Then he went on to go to court and seal so that the public should not know who has funded him. And yet the man is preaching repentance, whereas he has not repented himself. And then we are praising him. What are we praising him for?
All right, I get your point. Thank you for that, Mukwena, out in Rustenburg, saying that after he leaves, I've got to leave it. Yeah, Mukwena, very quickly.
One more last thing. I think the Zimbabwean government, they are not actually trying to mend what they did by compensating the
Mukwena, I've got to go. Let me take another call. Actually, on that point, let me take a call from Baki. Baki, good morning. You want to talk about that issue of Zimbabwean government saying that they will compensate white farmers who lost land? Yes, good morning.
Precisely. Let me get on it because you still have to get more callers before we get to the news. You know what? Zimbabwe is doing the right thing to compensate the farmers, the owners, the people who were owning those farms, before the Zimbabweans went there and destroyed property and took over those farms, and thinking that they will actually maintain what had already been done by those former farmers. But the question that we also must be asked, what we must ask ourselves is that where is this money going to come from? And I know that many people have answered that question, but could it also be that because Zimbabwe recently has just printed money? But then another thing is that we know that many people, even though there's no scientific proof on that, many people who actually took over those farms, they are now in neighboring countries. Why can't they go back home and go contribute to compensate the farmers, the owners of the farmers which they took, and eventually they failed to take care of those farms? I really do not know what is happening in Zimbabwe, but we pray that, the right thing must be done in Zimbabwe. Like we always say, let the right thing be done even in other countries.
Absolutely. Baki, thank you so much. Let's leave it at that point. Thank you so much there. That's Baki in Cape Town calling in about the issue of compensation that is proposed to be paid to farmers who lost land in Zimbabwe's land reform program. At 7 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now for the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, policing expert speaks on firearm crime in South Africa, and a suspect wanted for the killing of a senior Mangaung Metro manager. Good morning. The Institute for Security Studies says targeting gun-related crimes will make South Africa safe. The institute held a seminar in Pretoria to discuss the prevalence of gun-related crimes and how police can be empowered to respond to them. This is in light of the gunning down of 18 people in Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape and 7 others in Orange Farm in Gauteng. Some of the firearms used in the commission of violent crimes are stolen from police. Policing expert David Bruce believes by tracing illegal firearms, contact crimes including rape, murder and robberies would be drastically reduced.
What the SAPS needs to do, we are arguing, is introduce an integrated firearm crime reduction strategy, of which mapping is one element. The SAPS should do is optimize the collection and synthesis of information on firearm crime using multiple sources of data.
A suspect in the killing of the water general manager of the Mangaung Metro municipality in Bloemfontein is still at large. 48-year-old Luzuko Ntlabezo was gunned down at the municipal regional offices in Rocklands yesterday. Police say Ntlabezo was driving his vehicle in the company of a colleague when an unknown man approached them and fired shots at the driver. Police found 4 empty cartridges near the car. Police have launched a manhunt for the suspect. The municipal spokesperson, Kondile Kedama.
As the Mangaung Metro, we are shocked and saddened by the shooting of one of our general managers outside our offices in Rocklands. We are allowing the SAPS to do its part. Mangaung Metro would like to send its condolences to the family and will get guidance from the information that we get in the process of investigation by the SAPS, and will take everything from there.
2 more suspects arrested in connection with the Limpopo police officer Rachel Kutumela's insurance murder cases will jointly appear with the accused in the Polokwane Magistrates Court this morning. They're all accused of taking out insurance policies on unsuspecting residents, killing the beneficiaries and claiming money amounting to about 10 million rand. Kutumela is expected to apply for bail. The National Police spokesperson, Athlenda Mate.
The pair was arrested by the SAPS Limpopo tracking team in a village after the investigating officer obtained a J50 warrant of arrest. The pair is a 47-year-old nurse who is a sister to the sergeant, and the other is a 27-year-old daughter to the sergeant. The pair is expected to appear together with the accused at the Polokwane Magistrate Court on various charges including murder, fraud and money laundering.
The late former ANC NEC member Tito Mboweni was concerned about a number of party members implicated in corruption. That's according to the ANC's Limpopo spokesperson Jemima Chaka. ANC NEC members facing corruption charges include Thembi Simelane, Zizi Kodwa, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula and Pulemabe. The ANC in Limpopo last night held a memorial service for Mboweni in Tzaneen. Machaka says Mboweni would have liked to see the renewal of the ANC.
He was worried that many of the ANC leaders are found in media for wrong reasons, being accused on being unethical, being accused of corruption, and many other issues that are negatively affecting the society. He would have loved to see the ANC being renewed. He would have loved to see the ANC being united, and seeing government being able to deliver basic services to the people of Limpopo and the people of South Africa as a whole.
And finally, the Israeli army has released drone footage of what they claim shows Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar's last moments shortly before he was shot dead in a house in southern Gaza. The spokesperson for the Israeli army, Daniel Hagari, says 2 other people were killed during the operation. He says his forces will continue to pursue other senior Hamas members throughout Gaza.
Sinwar was responsible for the most brutal attack against Israel in our history. For the past year, Sinwar tried to escape justice. He failed. We said we would find him and bring him to justice, and we did it. Our work is not done. We will not rest until we bring home all our hostages, by any means.
Recapping the top story, the Institute for Security Studies says targeting gun-related crimes will make South Africa safe. The institute held a seminar in Pretoria to discuss the prevalence of gun-related crimes and how police can be empowered to respond to them. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give Outsurance a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from Outsurance.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good news, the R21 truck crash scene at the Benoni off-ramp has been cleared. The bad news is there are some roadworks there, and that run into the Benoni off-ramp coming out of the airport on your way to Tembisa and Pretoria stays slow. Got a crash on the M1 South at Olifantsfontein, so traffic parking back through towards the old Joburg Road exit and the Mabopane Highway inbound to Pretoria this morning. Big queues from Theo Martins all the way down to Eskia and Pathlani. Durban now starting the normal grind on the N2 through to Westwood Mall, backlogging already to the M7 highway. No major incidents of broken down trucks at this stage between Ashburton and Durban. We saw literally one after the other yesterday. And as we say, just check before you travel either direction, Durban, Pietermaritzburg, because you get a broken down truck, everything drops down to a single lane through construction zones, and all of a sudden you're looking at a 45-50 minute queue of traffic. We saw that literally one truck after the other yesterday. Cape Town, the problematic lights on Marine Drive at Woodbridge Island are still causing delays coming through from the high school side at Milnerton, and plenty of congestion out of Mitchell's Plain, particularly the M7 going up to the R300, and a crash on Baden-Powell Drive, the direction Muizenberg, between Strandfontein Pavilion and Coastal Park. So that run from the Mitchell's Plain side along Baden-Powell Coastal towards Muizenberg is being held up. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports headlines. We are still celebrating the Proteas women stunning Australia with Annika Bosch, 74 not out in the T20 World Cup semi-final. And in soccer news, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Nciti gives a grim update on talisman Themba Zwane's injury. All these stories and more just before 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7 on this Friday. Good morning, South Africa. Happy Friday to you. It's the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. It's all of the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Coming up in this hour, we'll focus on the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, And basically the scheme says it is crippled by financial and governance challenges. And part of the reason they are citing for that, they're saying that it's caused in part by poor IT systems and reckless cash management. The administrator at NSFAS, Freeman Nomvalo, will talk to me shortly and just outline some of the challenges and exactly what they are doing to address those challenges. That conversation coming up within the next few minutes. And then we'll turn to focus on the issue of food security with the agriculture economist Wandile Sihlobo. He's of the view that South Africa is not the worst off. In fact, is in a better space compared to other countries in as far as food insecurity is concerned. So our food security situation is relatively better than other countries, according to Wandile Sihlobo. But he says we must guard against complacency. And also the question of, does a better off food security situation amount to food security for the households? That's the conversation I'll be having with Wandile Sihlobo within this half hour. But a bit later on, I'll be in conversation with Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who is the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. We'll be talking about the role of traditional leadership in engendering a professional civil service that promotes service delivery. He's set to meet with the King Makosonke Mabena of Amandebele in Mpumalanga today. So we'll just bring that into the spotlight. What role does traditional leadership have in enhancing the civil service and ensuring that the needs of traditional communities are met? Those are some of the conversations that we've got lined up for you. But of course, we do want to hear from you on these and other issues that may be exercising your mind this morning. We have all the regulars lined up again in this hour, but also we'll take your calls on the number 086 000 2032, but also take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM, Conversations That Move Us. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why OUTsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that OUTsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
14 minutes after 7, let's turn our attention to issues to do with higher education now. The National Student Financial Aid Scheme, NSFAS, says it is crippled by financial and governance challenges caused by poor IT systems and reckless cash management. NSFAS, which handles nearly 50 billion rand a year, does not have the right IT systems to ensure that those who are paid are deserving of the financial support. On Tuesday, the NSFAS leadership and officials from the Department of Higher Education presented their annual reports to the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA. For more on this, I'm joined now by the NSFAS administrator, that is Freeman Nomvalo. Mr. Nomvalo, good morning, and thank you for your time. Surely an IT system cannot be at the heart of so many of your problems, can it?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. At a philosophical level, yes, but the point you are making is that cannot be the only issue. And I agree. If one looks at it that way, one would be very, very naive and simplistic in looking at the problem that way. But it is one of the contributing factors, because as stakeholders interact with us, they interact with us through those systems. And the specific practical example that was happening, especially during the course of this academic year, is that the registration status of students, once established, once determined, should stay the same. And there are institutions and students who are experiencing that they go into the system today, it tells them they are funded, and then tomorrow or a few days later it tells them they are not funded, and then it changes again. That type of instability, unfortunately, affects the disbursement of funds, affects the payment of allowances to students and all of those things. And that was a big problem and was creating a lot of uncertainty and instability in the system.
Is there a link between that instability and unreliability of the IT systems with the phenomenon of payments being made to people who are not deserving?
Now, the issue of payment to people who are not deserving is one that requires careful articulation. Now, if the determination for eligibility or non-eligibility gets affected by the system, and therefore Thulasizwe, who is not supposed to be funded, ends up having a decision in his favor in that Thulasizwe ends up being funded, then Thulasizwe would be paid while he is undeserving, as opposed to just paying to people and people manipulating the system to be paid. It flows from the process of determining whether somebody is eligible or not. And then if your systems are faulty in enabling you to come to that determination, at the end, somebody who may fall outside of the criterion ends up being funded.
And the issue of undeserving beneficiaries, how serious is that issue? I mean, you shared an anecdote a few days ago about domestic workers benefiting from this. How hard can it be? Because it would seem to me, if you have that situation, you are dealing with almost trying to catch water with a sieve, and that's just not helpful at all.
Yes, it is serious to the extent that somebody is not qualified, because that takes away from somebody who truly must be assisted, and there's many South Africans who deserve government assistance in this regard. But the interesting thing on that anecdote, it was a true story in terms of somebody phoning and claiming that. But on investigation, it seems that person is actually attending, which, by the way, underscores the value of the scheme in uprooting people from the current status to a better life in South Africa. And we're still following up on it so that we confirm fully, but the information we have at this stage, it appears on the surface that it is a true case of somebody who is studying and who is in fact a domestic worker, which would be a good story for the scheme.
Absolutely. And in fact, there are so many threads that we could pull at Mr. Nomvalo, but in the interest of perhaps getting to solutions, you were appointed the administrator for NSFAS some months ago. With all these issues, including the issue of collusion and the weaknesses, the IT systems, broadly, what can you say about the interventions you've begun to put in place? Because it's one thing for all of us to lament and diagnose what the problem is. You are tasked with fixing the problem.
Absolutely. First, at the outset on that score, I must point out that the issue of overhauling systems is, as everybody who knows anything about systems would understand, it's a longer-term type intervention. You can't come in and then you've got it done in 6 months' time. That's unrealistic. So that project will continue, and that will be what we hand over for the board, because you remember now there is a board that's going to be appointed to take over. The issue that was affecting students on allowances, we've dealt with that. The issue that affects accommodation providers being paid late and so on, we are busy with that. I actually even had a meeting yesterday with the team that does that, because constantly we keep picking up issues there. And issues there relate back to the onboarding of students at the beginning of the year. If students are onboarded incorrectly in various accommodations and there's information missing in that onboarding process, when it comes to payment at the tail end, it becomes an issue. We've met with stakeholders that are affected with by accommodation provision of students. We've met universities, we've met students, we've met accommodation providers, we've met solution partners to try and understand what that problem is. We are busy putting together a report, and there are recommendations that have come out of that process to address that issue. We've dealt with the stability of the system, and the database is now stable. We are able to put together dashboards. As I talk to you, I know exactly how many students have applied for 2025 as I'm talking to you now. And that comes out of having stabilized the system properly. Every 15 minutes it gets updated. And so we've gone a long way to making certain things stable, but it's going to take quite a while.
All right.
The closeout report, which relates to the financial statements, we are making progress in that regard. We're still behind schedule, but we're making progress.
All right, Mr. Freeman Nomvalo, I've got to thank you for your time. He is the NSFAS administrator, giving us an update on some of the interventions that they are implementing to try and improve the functionality of this fund, which is so crucial towards funding education for poor households in South Africa.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today, and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
You could win big when you play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 65 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 9 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 56 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m.
live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Send Thulasizwe your voice notes on 061 410 4107.
Let's shift our attention to this story now. South Africa is in a better place regarding food security when compared with various countries in the world. But this does not mean there should be complacency. And this is according to the economist Wandile Sihlobo. Sihlobo says South Africa will need to continue improving food security through expansion in agricultural production and job creation in various sectors of the economy. Wandile Sihlobo joins me now. He's chief economist at the Agricultural Business Chamber of South Africa. Good morning to you, Wandile. I've got to thank you for your time this morning. So just clarify for us, relatively better off than other countries as far as food insecurity is concerned does not necessarily translate to food secure, does it?
Thulas, at a national level, South Africa is food secure, and it's the most food secure country in sub-Saharan Africa, and second most food secure in Africa after Morocco. That means that we are producing and have enough food at a national level, available, safe, and accessible in all areas. But then that doesn't mean that all things are well to us in South Africa. As you know, the problem that we struggle with is household food insecurity, which means then that although at a national level things look rosy, but there's many of these households and millions of South Africans that go to bed without a sufficient diet, which then brings a question as to say, if at a national level we are fine, then what's the issue at a household level? And that has a lot to do with what one would call income poverty, which means that there's many of these households that just can't afford food regardless of what the price is because they have no income.
That's an interesting take. How do we bridge that gap between nationally being food secure and at household level facing food insecurity, and with that dynamic that you bring in of income poverty?
I think that the first step, it's important that we continuously improve our agricultural production, making sure that the supply chains are as efficient as they are, so that at a national level there are no risks. And in South Africa is actually in a fairly comfortable position because each year we produce so much to an extent that we export about half of what we produce to the world at a national level. But then the issue of the household food insecurity is also not because food in South Africa is so expensive relative to the world. In fact, if you look at our food prices compared with over 100 countries in the world, you realize that we lean towards the lower end of the most affordable as a country. But I think then the challenge that lies in is that regardless of where the price could be, if there is no money, there is no money, which is where I was saying the problem that we sit with is not so much an agricultural problem, but more of a socio-economic question of saying, how can we ensure that as many households as possible have access to food? And that question then to us of agricultural expansion, in a greater part of it, is about the possibilities of jobs that can come out of agriculture and its value chain.
In fact, talk to me a bit more about that expansion in agricultural production and job creation. What are some of the ideas of how to realize that?
As we speak to us, the most food insecure provinces in South Africa is Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and KZN. But these are also provinces that have underutilized land that is in relatively richer agricultural areas. So my sense is, how do we unlock agricultural production in those areas so that as production increases and there are work opportunities at a primary level, then those that have processing capacity can also open there. The first step must go to land governments. Some of that land lies in the state hands. You can transfer it to people with title deeds. pair it with blended finance, which the Land Bank and the government already offer to farmers. And I think once that takes off, then all of the other aspects that are in the value chain, there are many people, ourselves, for example, in the Agricultural Business Chamber and the others, that are willing to partner and make sure that they open up operations that will process. And I think in the midst of that, when we calculate, we think that there's reasonably about 1 million jobs that could be created in agriculture and its value chain. And I think that done effectively, it could begin then to alleviate to an extent some of the poverty pressures and the low growth pressures, particularly in those 3 poorest provinces of South Africa that I've just mentioned.
All right, Wandile Sehlobo, I've got to thank you for your time. Crystal clear to me. Some of the ideas you propose actually sound like common sense and concrete and actually can be implemented. And if the 7th administration has job creation and the economy as one of its apex priorities, perhaps the ideas that people like Wandile Sehlobo are putting forward are a good place to start in trying to look for solutions, because we can't have the situation where we are food secure at a national level, but at a household level, food insecurity is pervasive. At 7:30, let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry says more than 9,000 businesses in the city have closed down since the beginning of the year due to the high crime rate. It has blamed financial pressures due to the ailing economy for the business closures. The Institute for Security Studies says targeting gun-related crimes will make South Africa safe. The institute held a seminar in Pretoria to discuss the prevalence of gun-related crimes and how police can be empowered to respond to them. And the late former ANC-NEC member Tito Mboweni was concerned about a number of party members implicated in corruption. That's according to the ANC's Limpopo spokesperson, Jimmy Machaka. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. R21 stays busy leaving the airport. Tambo on your way to Pretoria. It's roadworks. Couple of lanes are closed up by the Benoni exit. The earlier truck crash is cleared, but the roadworks now are cutting in, causing problems. N1 through Midrand, fairly busy. Old Joburg Road to New Road. Then we pick up a delay between Allendale and Buccleuch. That is a broken down vehicle, bottom end of the N1 Midrand, causing delays. Lights are out on Winnie Mandela coming out of Four Ways to Bryanston. That is heavy. The main road from Lone Hill into Bryanston, also lots of traffic lights out and big queues there as well. Durban, Pietermaritzburg, clear of any broken down trucks. Yesterday was a disaster. We always say check before you travel. Get a broken down truck in the roadworks, just get delays popping 40-45 minutes, just like that. But it's clear at this stage. Cape Town, N7, Vangate Mall up through Viking Way from Langa into Epping's pretty busy. N2 loaded up between Roberts, Bookway and Hospital Bend. And a crash on Baden-Powell Drive along the coast this morning between Strandfontein Road and Coastal Parks. Quite a heavy backlog coming through from Mitchell's Plain, direction Muizenberg. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So Australia women were going 1, 2, 3, and just before they lifted their 4th finger in terms of the titles, the Proteas women had other ideas and intervened.
Oh yes, the Proteas definitely stumped. We finally stumped the Australians. It was our 7th attempt. So
they were going for number 4 in terms of the title.
Absolutely. Sure. So I think, you know what, 7 times the charm for us. But on the 8th try, we knocked it out of the park. So I have to say, Annika Bosch performance, battering the Aussies. I think they were just left searching for the boundaries, literally and figuratively. What a thrilling semi-final clash last night. Proteas women stunning the Australians, the defending champions, to reach the T20 World Cup final. And we saw chasing 135. The Proteas finished on 135 for 2, dismantling the Australian bowling attack. The South African bowlers, spearheaded by Ayabonga Kaka, with 2 for 24, restricted Australia to 134 for 5. And we also had Annika Bosch playing the innings of her career, scoring an unbeaten 74 off 48 balls. Here she is now.
My heart is racing a lot, and it was quite tough out there, but I'm really glad we could get over the line, and that I could finally contribute with some runs. We knew we were capable of it, and we had a pretty good tournament so far coming into this game, and we were quite confident. I think our batters, like Taz and Wolfie up front, has been incredible for us this tournament, and also our bowlers has been really, really good. And I think to restrict Australia to under 40 today was really well done by our bowlers.
Now, this win sets up South Africa for a showdown against either New Zealand or the West Indies in Sunday's final. Soccer, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Manqoba Nciti gives a grim update on talisman Themba Zwane's injury and also addressed his Bafana counterpart Hugo Bruges on comments he made about Kholiso Mudau and Teboho Mokoena. The Downs mentor confirms Zwane will likely be sidelined for up to 6 months after he injured his Achilles while on national team duty. Nciti explained the medical approach to treating Mshishi.
The report that we got about Themba is that it's a partial rupture, which could be around 3 to 4 months, but clinically they had said it's a grade 3, but I think we'll get better feedback this afternoon because I think he's going for surgery this afternoon. So possibilities between 4 to 6 months.
More soccer. Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero has assured they've got enough cover for the injured Nigerian international Olise Ndah in the first 11 games of the season. Rivero had a promising and effective centre pairing of Ndah and Thabiso Sisane, who has since made it to the Bafana setup. The Spanish-born coach was speaking ahead of their last 16 Carling knockout game this weekend against Magesi FC, and the Spanish-born coach saying that they plan to avoid relying on certain players.
We're going to find a way to continue being a team who is not depending on 1 or 2 players. It doesn't matter who is on the field. We try to play the same type of football with the same intention, with the same mentality, and that's the meaning of the word team. And we're trying to be that team that is not missing anybody, even though we would like to have everybody available to selection. It's not a discussion.
Rugby. Tomorrow the Sharks face a huge challenge in their United Rugby Championship clash against the defending champions, the Glasgow Warriors in Durban. Sharks coach John Plumtree has named a powerhouse lineup featuring 12 Springboks in the starting team, including captain Eben Etzebeth, Siya Kolisi, Oxen Chair, Makazole Mapimpi. The Hendrickse brothers, Jaden and Jordan, will start together as the halfback pairing for the first time. The Sharks have a tough season so far, with just 1 win from 3 games, and they'll be looking to bounce back after last week's heavy defeat against Benetton. Kickoff is at 3:45 p.m. That's a wrap of your sport on the morning brief. We'll have more at top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Ndauleng Lechela. Good morning to you once again, Ndauleng. And it seems the story keeps improving for TSMC, doesn't it, in the wake of AI and the demand for microchips and semiconductors?
That's right, Silas. Chip makers really have a hold on financial markets, and it seems when one semiconductor player sneezes, markets catch a cold. And this was the case earlier this week when European company ASML mistakenly released results earlier than expected, posting a very downbeat outlook, which sent risk assets tumbling. Yesterday, though, nerves were calmed after the world's largest contract chip maker, TSMC, delivered strong earnings, really the opposite of what ASML recorded. Now, TSMC's numbers boosted stocks. In its latest outlook, the group expects continued strong growth after reporting a 54% jump in third quarter profits. This surge was driven by, of course, the increasing demand for AI chips used in various industries. TSMC, which supplies chips to Apple and NVIDIA, plans to invest heavily to meet this demand. Its spending will more than double to $11.5 billion this quarter and likely increase further in 2025. TSMC forecasts 30% revenue growth for the full year, up from its previous estimate of mid-20%. So overall, an upbeat outlook for the year and for 2025. 2025. And this saw its share price jump 5% in yesterday's trading session. Looking at how it's performed year to date, that stock is up 83%.
Now, here's a company that we all talk about from time to time, and usually in not so flattering terms because of its previous leadership in the mobile telephony market, Nokia. But of course, they've since pivoted to a whole lot of other things that they do. But that has not changed the situation in as far as them needing to cut costs.
That's right. Now, Nokia really struggled, to get back on a stronger footing. As you mentioned, once the world's leading mobile phone manufacturer, and now more of a player that focuses on developing and licensing telcos, equipment, and software. It's continued to experience difficulties following that dramatic decline around the 2010s as it failed to adapt and dealt with tight competition. It struggled to recover from its fall from grace, and it's still in cost-cutting mode to keep its head above water. According to sources, Nokia has laid off close to 2,000 people, or about a fifth of its employee base across Greater China, and plans to cut another 350 jobs across Europe as part of efforts to lower costs. Now, this move is part of Nokia's 2023 plan to cut up to 14,000 jobs and save about 800 to 1.2 billion euros by 2026. As of last December, Nokia had 10,400 employees in Greater China and 37,400 in Europe. The company aims to reduce its employee base to between 72,000 to 77,000 by 2026. Currently, Nokia has around 78,500 employees. Now, the update on its cost-cutting initiatives come alongside its third quarter earnings. Nokia reported mixed numbers with a 9% rise in operating profit driven by those cost-cutting measures, but an 8% drop in net sales, missing estimates. So we can see that, in terms of strategy, in terms of trying to cut costs, they're winning. But in terms of sales and actually getting their products out there, it doesn't seem like, they're making much there. Company CEO Pekka Lundmark remains optimistic, though, about the company's progress, citing deals such as a contract with Vodafone Idea, which is said to be a driver of revenue growth moving forward.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder how many MBA business studies papers the case of Nokia has inspired over the last few decades. Lastly, Ndauling, just another recap of markets here at home in Asia and the United States.
So starting off in Asia, stocks are in the green in that region. Markets really digesting better than expected Chinese GDP figures. With that, the Shanghai index is up 1.17%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng also trading higher, up a similar margin. Over in the U.S., futures pretty flat, with traders chewing on economic data, company earnings, and eyeing that all-important U.S. election taking place in the next few weeks. And then back at home, we had a mixed finish yesterday, with the all-share earnings slightly higher, just shy of 0.25%. The rand, in the meantime, making steady gains, but it's really fallen off from its highs of 17.30. It's currently trading at 17.62 to the greenback.
All right, let's talk a bit later. That's Ndauling Lichela, watching all things to do with the economy, business, and the markets here at home, but also around the world for you throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
Mubango returns for an explosive new season on SABC2. A renaissance of new beginnings, intrigue, and drama with old enemies and new characters. Catch the rebirth season of Mubango every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2 or stream it on SABC Plus. Mubango, ukovela panda. SABC2.
The Rockets say before the sun sets in Mpumalanga, they will march out of the battlefield with a VIP access to the quarterfinals. However, the Chili Boys are not shaken. They want joy for the Eastern Cape citizens. This is the second edition of the Carlin Knockout Cup Round of 16. Fagukesi! Catch TS Galaxy FC versus Chipa United FC this Sunday, 20 October at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Are you blowing your paycheck on car insurance every month? Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 Rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give our children a call. It's a win-win. You can't lose.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's Yusuf.
Help it out. The service was quick. Absolutely phenomenal service from our children.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
South African Airways is expanding in the DRC. We now offer direct flights from Johannesburg to Lubumbashi, the heart of the DRC's mining hub. Our convenient arrival time allows seamless connections to key regions like Ndola and the Copper Belt, opening up new growth opportunities. Traders can benefit from our generous baggage allowance, while SAA's superior aircraft belly capacity ensures your cargo reaches most parts of Congo on the same day. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your travel agent. South African Airways, connecting Africa to the world, one flight at a time.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Raz, Advocate Sipho Mantula. Good morning to you, Raz. So let's start in Kenya. Not even feeling unwell and being hospitalized could save the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, from impeachment.
Thank you, Thulas and Jamba Africa to the listeners. Indeed, Thulas, having chest pains yesterday, had to go to the doctor, and other senators were saying, but why are we pushing for this vote? Others are saying, but he has committed a political crime. Hence, yesterday we saw out of 67 senators, 54 voted to say Gachagua must also be removed as a deputy president. Others are saying that this will cause, it will put a risk, and it will push the country towards a political and constitutional crisis, Thulas. And remember, like I said yesterday, William Ruto has been silent on this move. And others are saying there's also an investigation around the finances of the vice president that may also link the hustler, William Ruto.
And then in Mali, the story, Sipho, had me thinking about Airfield Marshal, conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general, in Uganda in particular. The head of the military junta in Mali has given himself a promotion.
That is quite true, and this title, others are saying that Colonel Asim Goit of the Land Army. That's the highest military title that was held by former heads of state in the country's history. Others are saying that this move to us is for him, that there is no intention of ceding power to the civilians at any given time. Other 5 generals also were given what they call the 5-star ranking, 4-star general ranking. Those are the generals who are surrounding Colonel Asim Goit of the Land Army. It's interesting that they've never been pronounced the presidential elections. These are the challenges that we see in Mali, Bamako.
Yeah, of course, the airfield marshal I was referring to, Idi Amin, professor of geography, conqueror of the British Empire. Anyway, let's move on, Sipho. In Angola, we're edging ever closer to the visit by President Joe Biden of the United States to that country.
That visit has been slated for the 5th of November next month. This was announced by the White House this week. And others are saying this is the end of his term, and we don't know those who will come through, whether Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, will they even visit Angola. But when you look at the geopolitics, you'll see that Angola has been moving closer towards Washington than Kremlin or towards Beijing. And others are saying this meeting is also going to discuss the Lubito Corridor. Lubito Corridor linked to the DRC and the minerals and the mining that will be shipped to North America. This is not a meeting that will benefit Africa too much, considering what has been happening in the DRC. But it seems Joao Lorenzo is ready to host Joe Biden next month in Rwanda.
And then in Harare, the government, they're talking about compensating the white farmers who lost land during its fast-tracked land reform program.
Remember, this came from Mnangagwa Dambuzi in 2022, when he came into power, that will engage with the white farmers. They went to the Commonwealth, which others we call it common poverty sometimes to us. They went to Africa. They went to African Development Bank to seek this money. As Nube, the Minister of Finance this week, saying that we are going to get money from the Africa Bank and we'll deal with 441 applicants who wanted compensation. So it is that tricky in our country to land without compensation, but in Zimbabwe we see the opposite, that the land that was grabbed from Africans, now they have to be compensated by the same grabbers of the land. And this date back to 2004, if you recall, the time of the war veterans led by Hitler, where others were saying it was a land grab or it was a land repossession. And that also will haunt Uncle Bob where he is to us. For me, I think of what will Uncle Bob have said with this move coming from Minister Nube and President Mnangagwa.
Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you, I was in the stadium, National Sports Stadium, during the inauguration when he first mentioned it, Emmerson Mnangagwa, in 2018. My jaw dropped, actually, because I had never heard anything about compensation until that point. Lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, you're taking us to 18 October 2007, and again, you are breaking my heart.
Tulas, I'm breaking your heart, and I thought our team would have done something strange there to play the sound of Lucky Dube, because he was murdered in Rosettenville on this day. We know that the passing of Lucky Dube vibrated the whole continent and the country, and it was during the time of President Thabo Mbeki where it was the Springbok rugby matches that were going on in Paris that he had to pay tribute to Lucky Dube, who released only 2 albums in 3 languages, English, isiZulu, and Afrikaans. Lucky Dube band tomorrow will be performing to us as part of the tribute with the Benin Spear from Jamaica at Emperor's Palace. Interesting when you look at the legacy of Lucky Philip Mtima Dube. Asante sana Thulas, facilitating the conversation SAFM.
Thank you for that, Sipho Mantula there. Have yourself a great day and also an even greater weekend. Sipho Mantula there with his usual Africa update for you here on The Morning Brief.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just thought I might run through a list of traffic lights that are out in northern parts of Joburg. This is an extensive list, and this is not new. These lights have been down like forever. Witkoppen at Douglas, Malabongwe at Bel Airs, N1 at Winnie Mandela, Main and Witkoppen, Winnie Mandela at Monte Cassino, N1, Bayers Nordia, N1, Malabongwe, Witkoppen, Bayers Nordia at Easterhout. That's Lifestyle. You've got the Mike 1 at Woodmead down. You've got Pretoria Main at Woodmead down. Bayers Nordia, Northumberland, N1, Olifantsfontein in Midrand, R55 at Main at Kyalami. All of those are major routes and major junctions, and they've been just left without traffic lights for the longest time. And they all, of course, cause delays this time of morning. You really get acute delays around the Four Ways area, crossing Delone Hill, Bryanston, and that run up Witkoppen from North Riding into Four Ways. That's where you really feel the effect of all of that in those northern suburbs. R21 north queuing to the Benoni exit. That's roadworks. Another delay just north of the Clayville Olifantsfontein off-ramp on the R21 running north, and that is more roadworks as well. Over into Durban, the M13, very heavy this morning as you come out of Pinetown. There's a really big backlog of traffic. It's a collision scene on the N3, pretty much just at Paradise Valley. So the N3 queues coming through Pinetown towards Durban up to that crash, but then the M13, real problems gliding off it and gliding into the N3 because you're basically gliding into the crash. So from St. John's Avenue, the exit out of Pinetown, very slow. Mhlanga Kumashu on the N2, busy both ways today. Cape Town, a lot of pressure on Robert Sobukwe, moving north from Belleville south up towards the central Belleville area. Marine Drive queuing again at the Loxton Road. That's a problem this week. In fact, it's a full week now that light has been a problem. Baden Powell, a crash between Strandfontein and Coastal Park, so from Mitchell's Plain to Muizenberg, it's heavy. And if you're driving central Cape Town today, well, it's a big weekend with Saturday and Sunday events with the Cape Town Marathon. It's the expo and registration event today between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. at DHL Stadium, and that'll be packed. There'll be a lot of participants going to register, get their numbers, what have you. A lot of people interested in the expo. We saw some traffic delays building yesterday. Routes like Helen Suzman, the main road, just generally through the Greenpoint waterfront area, factor in more traffic, and with that, some delays across the course of today. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Is alcohol affecting your work? Is alcohol affecting your family? Is alcohol affecting your relationships? Visit aasouthafrica.org.za or call 086 143 5722. With Alcoholics Anonymous, you need never stand alone again. This is a SABC-supported initiative.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Bayern München are not just about singing their club anthem, Star of the South. They want to maintain their unbeaten run while their visitors, VfB Stuttgart, plan to live up to their slogan, fearless and loyal. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch the nail-biting clash between Bayern München and VfB Stuttgart this Saturday, 19 October at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's take this conversation now. The chairperson of the Public Service Commission, the PSC, Professor Somadoda Fikeni, alongside with other commissioners, will meet with King Makosonke Mabena II of the Amandebele Kingship in Mpumalanga today. The meeting will focus on how the kingship can work together with the PSC to address the needs of traditional communities and promote their well-being. Professor Somadoda Fikeni joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you, Professor Fikeni. So just as a starting point, please locate this engagement with the Amandebele Kingship within your mandate of improving the effectiveness and professionalism of the public service in the interest of better service delivery.
Thank you very much for inviting us. The key mandate of the Public Service Commission is to make sure that we have effective and efficient public service that services people. And now, as we were analyzing a range of our challenges in terms of service delivery, we realized that they are mainly concentrated in people who are under the administration of Amakosi or traditional leaders. Even if you look at our census or statistician general's reports, the regular reports, they show that the concentration of poverty, unemployment, poor service delivery is in those areas. It is in that sense that we felt we needed to engage and get the confidence of traditional leaders so that our penetration into those areas becomes key. But the other part is that they themselves need to be capacitated and be supported. And in that way, they will do their work more effectively. For example, they are responsible for land management. Hence, we're even talking about the reopening of schools for traditional leaders so that they can be better capacitated to do the work. And we ensure that even the public servants who are appointed to service them do their work.
Right. So if I hear you correctly, the phrase reopening of schools for traditional leaders, are you proposing formalized, structured education programs to better capacitate them in fulfilling their mandate?
Remember that there were such schools in the Eastern Cape, in KZN, in the former Transvaal, servicing both Mpumalanga and Limpopo. It's a matter of reopening them, because if you don't recognize this dual authority at local level as a reality in Africa and in South Africa in particular, you'll always have a challenge. Now you do have people who have several roles presiding over their communities, having land management, sometimes having traditional courts and so forth, and there's absolutely no training, no induction, and they just get into those roles. That is a recipe for disaster.
Right. Interesting. So just, is it safe to assume then that this is the first of many engagements, the one you are starting with King Makosonke?
It is the second one.
All
2
right.
days ago, we were in the Free State meeting with His Majesty King Mopeli, and it is the second one, and we are going to be going to other provinces as well, meeting, the kings and queens.
Right. Just as a parting shot, Professor Fikeni, you may have responded to this and maybe I missed it, but let me put it to you anyway. The decision by Inkosi Mzamo Buthelezi in about a week or so ago to turn down the requests by those three ministers to deviate from the minimum qualification requirements in the civil service. What are the implications of that? What's your reaction to that as the PSC?
We supported that, and we've already voiced that, and we've communicated that to the minister as well, because these exceptions made become a norm. And you cannot professionalize if you do not set the tone right at the top, because the exceptions now start expanding. It becomes a slippery slope. 30 years after our democracy, to still say that a person doesn't have education, only has matric, when you had free education, when you have bursaries, when you have all kinds of opportunities, and these people are going to do technical work, advise ministers, and preside over some of the professionals.
Right.
That cannot be if we are serious about promoting professionalization.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Professor Somadoda Fikeni, who is the chairperson of the Public Service Commission. And that brings us to 8 a.m., time for us to check in with the news with N. Musa. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, more than 9,000 businesses have closed down in Johannesburg, and Kenya's Senate to vote on removal of the deputy president. Good morning. The Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry says more than 9,000 businesses in the city have closed down since the beginning of the year due to the high crime rate. It has blamed financial pressures due to the ailing economy for the business closures. Security experts say crime syndicates are now increasingly targeting businesses with high-value assets, such as expensive equipment, including generators. The Chamber's president, Connie Mashaba.
Especially small businesses really closing down, suffering. The last time that I heard the stats, we had about over 9,000 businesses going under liquidation, in this year alone. We need to have something happening in the city. We need Johannesburg, renewal of the city, because when you go to the city, anyone doesn't feel safe and comfortable. So you can imagine what it does to business.
The Institute for Security Studies says targeting gun-related crimes will make South Africa safe. The institute held a seminar in Pretoria to discuss the prevalence of gun-related crimes and how police can be empowered to respond to them. This is in light of the gunning down of 18 people in Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape and 7 others in Orange Farm in Gauteng. Some of the firearms used in the commission of violent crimes are stolen from police. Policing expert David Bruce believes by tracing illegal firearms, contact crimes including rape, murder and robberies would be drastically reduced.
What the SAPS needs to do, we are arguing, is introduce an integrated firearm crime reduction strategy, of which mapping is one element. The SAPS should do is optimize the collection and synthesis of information on firearm crime using multiple sources of data.
The late former ANC-NEC member Tito Mboweni was concerned about a number of party members implicated in corruption. That's according to the ANC's Limpopo spokesperson, Jimmy Machaka. ANC-NEC members facing corruption charges include Thembi Simelane, Sizi Kotwa, Nosiviwe Mapisa Ngakula and Pule Mabe. The ANC in Limpopo last night held a memorial service for Mboweni in Zanin. Machaka says Mboweni would have liked to see the renewal of the ANC.
He was worried that many of the ANC leaders are found in media for wrong reasons, being accused of being unethical, being accused of corruption, and many other issues that are negatively affecting the society. He would have loved to see the ANC being renewed. He would have loved to see the ANC being united and see government being able to deliver basic services to the people of Limpopo and the people of South Africa as a whole.
Stellenbosch University will today officially launch its Electric Mobility Lab. The lab, which the Western Cape government has funded, looks at vehicles and how to electrify them. Professor of Engineering, Thulasizwe Simelane.
Electric mobility from the rest of the world's perspective is about moving away from climate change causing gas. So we're trying to move away from carbon emissions. In Africa, our contribution is minuscule. We are not nearly where the rest of the world are in terms of our transport system causing climate change gases. What matters in Africa is actually the pollution that diesel and petrol vehicles cause. They cause particulate matter in the air, which has a very big health knock-on impact. So many people in Africa die every year because of the pollution caused by diesel and petrol vehicles. So for us, it's not as much about climate change. Africa, it's more about clean air.
And finally, senators in Kenya have voted to remove Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua from office. This is despite him having to testify at his impeachment trial after his lawyer said he'd been taken to hospital. He's accused of corruption, inciting ethnic divisions and undermining the government. He has denied all the charges. The BBC's Anne Soy reports.
The Deputy President was due to appear before Senate for cross-examination, but he did not show up, and his lawyer said that he'd been taken ill with chest pains. But Parliament said that they were not going to postpone the hearing, and they went to a vote and upheld 5 counts out of the 11 that the Deputy President was facing. So it is an unprecedented vote in this country. It's the first time that a Deputy President has been removed through Parliament.
Recapping the top story, the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry says more than 9,000 businesses in the city have closed down since the beginning of the year due to the high crime rate. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Whether you love it or hate it, your older car needs to be insured. Outsurance Essential is insurance designed and priced for older cars. After an accident, claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. And now with motor warranty, you can be covered for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
This one is worth avoiding for the next little while. If you're driving into Durban, coming through Pinetown, there's been quite a big crash. Looks like a car and a truck involved. Paradise Valley is the location. So it's just after the M13 and N3 have sort of merged there down towards Pavilion. So coming out of Pinetown, the M13 is hardly moving. Queues right back to St John's Avenue Bridge. The M3 backlogging from the M7. So you've got the option, Pinetown, you exit on the M19. And if you're coming on the N3, off-ramp at the M7 and run up the N2 North, that's clear this morning through Spaghetti Junction. Gives you a couple of options to avoid the N3 and M13 in towards that particular scene. Roadworks at 2 locations going away from Joburg's Airport towards Pretoria, one before the Benoni exit and another just after the Olifantsfontein Road to exit. 2 queues, very noticeable. Cape Town a busy Friday, plenty of traffic on the N7. Jake Skirville driving Goodwood queuing both ways this morning. Crash on Baden-Powell, looks like it's cleared. That traffic along the coast towards Muizenberg is starting to move. And don't forget it's Expo blue and registration day today, day 2 of it, at the DHL Stadium for this weekend's Cape Town Marathon event. It will be really busy. Event is underway, the expo at least, in registration from 9 until 7. So around that sort of Green Point, waterfront area, western side of the CBD, expect to hit some traffic congestion pretty much all day from 9 this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby with the Springbok women. They're drawn against France, Italy and Brazil in the 2025 Rugby World Cup. And South Africa's women, they stunned the defending champions Australia to charge into the finals of the T20 Cricket World Cup. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Friday. Good morning, South Africa. This is the morning brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. What a fascinating morning it's been. Varied topics as we usually do. We've covered over the last 2 hours and many of them conversation drivers for you. Some of them we covered them, some of them I raised a bit earlier on, but it just so happened that they also happen to exercise your mind. So stories such as the resignation of Fana Mokoena following hot off the heels of the resignation of Busisiwe Mkhwebane a few days ago from the EFF. I see that you are engaging and commenting on that, and I'll be engaging with your thoughts on that in a short while. We've talked a little bit, at some extent actually, about the Zimbabwean government committing and pledging to starting to pay compensation to former farm owners, white farm owners in Zimbabwe who lost land during the land reform program, land seizures that occurred from around 2000 in that country. So we've just been analyzing and talking about that. In the last few minutes of the past hour, we were talking about professionalism and professionalization of the civil service and the role that is there for traditional leaders, Amakosi. You will have heard the Public Service Commission chairperson, Professor Somadoda Fikeni. In essence, it might be back to school for many traditional leaders to help them fulfill their constitutional mandate, because as you know, we have this eclectic mix in our governance structures that envisages a role for traditional leaders in traditional communities. So therefore, empowering them with education may not be such a bad idea. Those are some of the conversations that are floating around, but I look forward to hearing you put your ideas on the tables, your arguments on the table. You can do that. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. You can also send me a WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. Conversations that move us. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Archers are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
You could win big when you play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 65 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 9 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 56 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's crank up the ideas refinery now. Let 100 schools of thought contend. Let's take some of your calls. Sandra is in Durban. Good morning to you, Sandra. You want to talk to me about SASA. Is it SASA or NSFAS? Which one? Yeah?
Hello, Sandra.
Yes, Sandra, I've got you.
Good morning to you, Sizwe. Thulasizwe Simelane. I don't know why they call you Tula, because you got such a beautiful voice and you should make use of it.
Thank you. I should not Tula.
Okay, that's a joke. No offense.
No,
Tula, I just want to ask, I just want to educate the SASA officers in the head offices and ask them why they don't advertise and notify the public of whatever the transactions are between them and the public. Like the GIA grant. GIA means grant in aid. Because the sub-branches of SASA and the locals, they're not so familiar because they are distributing documents without the letterhead of SASA and telling the people this is who qualify and this is who don't qualify. But SASA is supposed to be sending those letterheads around, advertising those letterheads in the press, in all the local papers, right? Even on your radio station, not everybody listens to SFM because there's 19 radio stations, am I right?
Yes.
So they have to advertise in 19 radio stations as well. So if they could please, because the councillors are misleading us, the public is misleading us, and the small agents, the SASA sub-branches are misleading us. Please, we are appealing. Because I read an advert in the paper, it says, just before election, the 2024 election, a councillor advertised in the press, which I have the cutting on hand, that, you know what, the pensioners were entitled to a voucher. Right, and annual voucher, but we have never received it. All my years, I've never received any annual voucher, and I don't know if that's true or whether that councillor wants votes.
All right. Thank you for that, Sandra. I think I get the point that Sandra is making there. Perhaps the South African Social Security Agency needing to step up a bit more in as far as communication with the public and beneficiaries are concerned. And I picked up the issue that she raises around the use of the official letterhead of SASA, that perhaps they might want to promote that practice to just guard against pensioners and beneficiaries being taken advantage of. Sandra in Durban there. Let's go to Vuyiswa in Parktown. Good morning to you, Vuyiswa. You want to talk to me about this issue of Zimbabwe proposing to pay compensation to white farmers?
Yes, Tula, you know what? This is sad. We actually in a phase where, the whole thing is confusing. The very perpetrator, the one who stole your land, the one who abused you, the one who actually meted out injustices to you, he stole the land or was given that land at a very lesser percentage. And after a while, when you get the land back, Then for you to get IMF loans and World Bank, which is another satanic thing, you have to compensate these people for what? I'm like asking myself, because you can actually feel it even here in South Africa. Even the presenters, you can feel they are intimidated. There's a hidden hand of whites who are controlling this whole world, why certain subjects are not supposed to be discussed, and why you're not supposed to talk as a victim of all these injustices that have been meted to us. I even ask myself a lot that growing up in exile, losing my parents at a tender age, in those camps in Tanzania, in Zambia, there's a message that we're given when we come back home.
Yeah.
We are going to have this and that. But right now, you have white people in the forefront talking, NGOs talking. You don't know what they're talking. They don't know what we're feeling. We lost our parents here. We lost our brothers and sisters here.
Yeah.
We lost our cousins, our uncles here. The Zimbabwe is the same thing. But how can you compensate a thief?
Right.
That's my question. How do you
you.
compensate the sheep? White people have come to play victim, yet the victim is us, the African people, because we haven't actually got what we fought for.
All right, Vuyiswa, thank you for that call. I hear you. That's Vuyiswa in Parktown talking about that proposal and basically lamenting what she believes it represents, perhaps a reversal in as far as achieving substantive justice in as far as the issue of land is concerned, and reversing the excesses of colonialism. That's Vuyiswa there. Let's speak to Eddie in the Free State. Eddie, good morning to you. You want to talk to me about NSFAS?
Yes, thank you very much, my brother. And I want to say you are a good deployment.
Cadre deployment, you say.
You're well placed, my brother.
Thank
and
you.
We appreciate your contribution, especially. You are assisting us as South Africans.
Thank you so much.
To discuss these matters. On coming to NSFAS, I just want to check, why are they not decentralizing the whole issue of payments? I don't think it has been decentralized. I think they are doing it at national level. Because if you decentralize it, I think for them at national level, it will be just to check whether there's any compliance in terms of usage of the monies and so on. And the other thing is, NSFAS is like a car that cannot be repaired. Every year in, out, we have these problems that cannot be solved. There must be a time that comes to say, now NSFAS, now it's okay to assist our children. They are having good budget, billions of rands, that they can be able to assist students. The other issue is, I think, that I thought maybe it will be asked, is the missing metal. They promise people loans. It's like now the item is now missing in their agenda. So I don't understand that. The last point is, please, thank you very much for bringing the guy from is it Agri Business Chamber? Because I'm in that state.
Wandile Sihlobo, yes.
What is his name?
Wandile Sihlobo.
Oh, thank you very much, because we want to have some chat with him about agri matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eddie. That's Eddie out in the Free State there talking about a number of issues, including the issue of NSFAS. Interesting proposal that he makes about decentralization, but it's going to be difficult until NSFAS has really reached a point where they've arrested some of the problems that they face as far as, for instance, the IT systems, and trying to curb the leakages where people are being paid that are not deserving. Let me take one or two of your voice notes. Let's take one on the EFF now.
Good morning. I think people who are resigning from the EFF will not affect its support, because the followers of Julius Malema do not care about the policies of the EFF. They only love the character of Julius Malema and his ideology. Simon from Tzaneen.
Thank you for that, Simon. An interesting take on the issues that are, facing the EFF at the moment, with all the resignations that we have seen recently. But you must remember, of course, that Julius Malema did say that he's aware that there were many conversations to try and get other people to resign, and did say he does expect that we may see quite a few resignations.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. A few valuable tips for reducing your breast cancer risk. Do monthly breast self-examinations. Go for regular screening. Do your yearly mammogram. The Science of Life on SAFM.
22 minutes after 8. Well, many of us actually do this. A slice of bread that's sort of past its best before date, or, some milk that also signals that, it's a bit on the edge in as far as the best before date is concerned, and you consider it to not have gone off. Expired foods are food products that have passed their recommended or stated expiration date, which the manufacturer determines as the point after which the food may no longer be safe to consume. After that date, the food may have poorer quality due to deteriorating properties of the food, grow harmful bacteria, or lose its natural value. But just how dangerous is it to consume food that has passed its expiry or best before or sell-by date? To answer these questions, I'm joined by Professor Lucia Anelich, who is food safety specialist and owner of Anelich Consulting. Good morning to you, Prof. I've got to thank you for your time. Did I capture it correctly there, the delineation between expired, best before, sell before dates, or did I get it somewhat a bit offish?
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your program. Well, it was pretty correct in some ways, but I think we need to just clarify the difference between a use-by date and a best before date, because those two are the ones that are most often used.
Yeah.
The sell-by date is an optional date that a retailer can add to a food, but the other two are actually the more important ones. The use-by date is about food safety, but the best before date is about food quality. In other words, if you have a best before date on a product like chocolate, or a chocolate containing nuts, for example, and it goes beyond its best before date, it doesn't mean that the food is no longer fit for human consumption from a safety perspective. All it means is that it is no longer the best quality. So the nut might become slightly rancid. That's not a food safety issue. It just doesn't taste so great. But a product that is put on the shelf that is contaminated, either with bacteria or viruses or even a toxic chemical, as seems to be the case with these poisonings that are occurring with these children, very, very unfortunately and very sadly, it appears to be a chemical of some sort, like a pesticide. And if that's in the product from the word go, there's nothing you can do about the use by or best before dates, because it will harm the individual regardless of the date that is printed on the packaging material.
Yeah, I will actually ask for some of your views on the poisoning incidents we are seeing, particularly in schools, in a moment. But if we stick with the theme of the best before, use by dates and the likes, you often see people refrigerating or even freezing food and with the intention of consuming it post the expiry date. Does that always work? Does it always preserve the quality or perhaps the safety element of the food?
It can, but the use-by date remains the most important one, because the use-by date is the one that is determined by manufacturers under specific conditions of storage. So if it's a perishable food like milk, fresh milk, not the UHT milk, but the fresh milk, that use-by date is determined according to the actual refrigeration conditions under which the product should be stored. And so that is important still to adhere to. If you are freezing things like uncooked rice in a bag or flour, you can freeze it, you can refrigerate it to keep it for longer beyond its best before date. But it's not a use-by date issue. So again, it's important to understand the difference between the two.
Yeah, I must say I didn't understand the difference between the two. I thought I did until I had the conversation with you today. Are there certain foods, Prof, that should under no circumstances be consumed at all after they have reached their best before or use-by date?
Definitely. There are mostly the perishables. The perishables are your most important ones. That's your fresh foods like your raw meats, raw chicken, raw fish and things like that. You want to cook those as quickly as possible, so you should not go beyond the use-by date that's on the package when you buy these products. When they are frozen, it's a different story, because if you buy frozen chicken, you can keep it frozen for much, much longer. Obviously, if you keep it in the fridge, the temperature of the fridge can still allow certain bacteria to grow over time. Therefore, the use-by date really, really becomes important under those circumstances.
Lastly then, Prof, and I'm not sure to what extent you've really been following, I imagine, because this is an area that's of interest to you. There's incidents of children consuming snacks and the likes that they buy from vendors in the main and spaza shops and the likes around schools, and then falling ill. And we've seen quite a number of them, dying from those incidents. Just your thinking and perhaps your theory about where the theory seems to be that there are certain toxins that are being introduced into the food value chain, and that's where authorities are looking into. But just from your perspective, what's your thinking?
Well, if I look at the rapidity of the symptoms, from what I've seen in the media, 30 minutes seems to be the cutoff point. In other words, the children have been consuming the food, and 30 minutes later they've been showing symptoms. That is very, very quick. And because of the rapidity of those symptoms, it indicates to me a toxin of some sort that is not of microbial origin. So this seems to be a chemical contamination. And it appears as though, if you look at the symptoms as well that have been described, especially of the Naledi children who passed away, it looks as though it could be a pesticide, an insecticide of some sort, and it points towards the organophosphate group. And where it comes from is the big question, because it shouldn't even be close to any food manufacturing premises at all. So if these products are being purchased in bulk and potentially repackaged into smaller packages, there is a potential then they could become contaminated from the environment if that organophosphate is kept or used in the same premises, in the same room, or in the same packaging area. There could be a contamination occurring. We also know that, unfortunately, even though the pesticide industry in South Africa is heavily regulated, and rightly so, there are unscrupulous people out there that do obtain these products under illegal conditions and also sell them into the communities. And of course, the communities don't necessarily have the awareness and the understanding of how toxic these substances are. And if they get into your food, they are going to cause very serious illness and, of course, death in some cases.
All right, Prof, I've got to thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. That's Professor Lucia Anelich there, who is a food safety specialist and owner of Anelich Consulting. There you have it. That's her theory from observing the reports about the poisoning incidents that we've been reporting on. Is anyone listening? Is anyone listening? Reach out to her, people like her, and see if we can get to the bottom of these matters. At 8:31, let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to Thulas. In the headlines, police believe they've made another breakthrough in the investigation into the gunning down of 18 people in Nkobazana village in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. The investigating team has recovered 3 AK-47 assault rifles and a high-caliber rifle. 2 people have also been arrested for being in possession of the rifles. The Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry says more than 9,000 businesses in the city have closed down since the beginning of the year due to the high crime rate. It has blamed financial pressures due to the ailing economy for the business closures. And the family of the late former Judge Willem Heath says it will hold a private cremation service for him today. He died in Cape Town last week at the age of 79. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Looking good through Mid-Rand this morning. No major noticeable backlogs. If you're coming out of Pretoria, the Pretoria section fine as well. Down through Rigel, through John Foster, and a swing through Mid-Rand. It's looking okay. 21 North, got two queues to work through. One at the Benoni exit as you leave the airport into some roadworks, and then another just after Olifantsfontein as you get through the Clayville area to fairly heavy lane restrictions and backlogs at this stage. Major delays coming out of Pinetown on your way to Durban. It's a crash, quite a big one at Paradise Valley. It's just after the highways have merged. So the N3 is very heavy from the M7 highway, and the M13 is back to sort of St John's Avenue Bridge down through Stapleton Road and Paradise Valley and onto the N3. It's really heavy this morning. So out of Pinetown, think about the M19 as your alternative. If you're coming the other way, you might want to go down the M7 to access the M2. The M2 North, incidentally, clear through to Spaghetti Junction. Easier traffic volumes on a Friday, and you can see that on that N2, which always queues, but not this morning. Cape Town, we've got a crash at M3 inbound Paradise Road, so the run up Weinberg Hill into Bishop's Court stays busy. N1's been a busy week for N1 traffic to the city centre. It's still really bad from sort of N1 city territory. Marine Drive, still problems with the traffic lights at Woodbridge Island, so that's queuing from the Milnerton High School. And don't forget, just factor in some delays today around the waterfront and around the Greenpoint and the western side of the city centre. You've got the Expo and registration event, day 2 of that at the DHL Stadium for this weekend's Cape Town Marathon. Caused delays yesterday with the extra volume. It'll probably be even worse in that area across the course of today. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, you know who I think will be watching the Proteas women in the finals very closely and seeking inspiration? The Springbok women.
Of course, yeah. And you know what, Thulas, we love a good underdog story.
Yeah.
We were the underdogs yesterday against Australia, and it seems like the Springbok women, they are also here in this pool, underdogs for the 2025 Rugby World Cup. And we like one that
tough draw, eh?
Yeah, it's a tough draw. It's not going to be,
group,
what do they say? Pasta and croissants. Well, they've got Italy and France, as well as Brazil in Pool D. That's our Springbok women. They're preparing for a 2025 Rugby World Cup, and we are ranked 12th. That's the Springbok women. They will face stiff competition from 4th ranked France and 8th ranked Italy, but the team is confident after a strong showing in recent tournaments. With their eyes set on making the quarterfinals, it's likely to be a showdown between South Africa and Italy for that crucial spot. More rugby. Tomorrow the Sharks will face a huge challenge in their United Rugby Championship clash against the defending champions, the Glasgow Warriors, in Durban. Sharks coach John Plumtree has named a powerhouse lineup featuring 12 Springboks in the starting team, including captain Ebenezabeth Siyakolisi, Oxenchair and Makazole Mapimpi. The Hendrickse brothers, Jaden and Jordan, will start together as the halfback pairing for the first time. The Sharks have had a tough season so far, just one win from 3 games, and they're looking to bounce back from last week's heavy defeat against Benetton. Kickoff at 3:45 p.m. Cricket news. We're celebrating the Proteas women who stunned Australia to reach the T20 World Cup final. Annika Bosch played the innings of her career, scoring an unbeaten 74 of 48 balls. Bosch, alongside captain Laura Wolfhard, led South Africa to a convincing 8-wicket victory with 16 balls to spare, chasing 135. The Proteas finished on 135 for 2, dismantling the Australian bowling attack. Earlier, South Africa's bowlers, spearheaded by Ayabonga Kaka with 2 for 24, restricted Australia to 134 for 5. Now this win sets up South Africa for a showdown against either New Zealand or the West Indies in Sunday's final, which will start at 4 p.m. Motorsport Formula 1 will drop the fastest lap bonus point from the 2025 season in an unexpected move ratified in the latest meeting of FIFA's World Motorsport Council. The governing body confirmed the additional point will no longer be awarded to the driver who sets the fastest lap in Grand Prix next year. The rule returned to the sport after a 60-year absence in 2019. The point is only currently awarded to a driver if they also finish in the top 10. And finally, golf. Kyle Barker has been trying to hone his game in preparation for the DP World Tour qualifying school at the end of this month in Spain. The 26-year-old fired an exceptional 63 in the opening round of the Fortress Invitational at Glendower Golf Club to fill him with plenty of confidence. The Serengeti Golf Estates golfer enjoys a one-stroke lead in the R2 million event after Werner Dazel and defending champion Robin Williams pushed him hard with 64s. And that's a wrap of your sport. We'll have more for you on SAFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lechela once again. And Ndauling, planned maintenance shutdowns, a bit of a double-edged sword, aren't they? In that you need to undertake them for your machinery to keep firing, but at the same time, it does mean that your production is affected. And Mondi is finding this out, and it's showing in their numbers. Ndauling, do I have you on the line? All right, we'll turn back to Ndauling in just a moment, just with another update of the news in the economy, business, as well as the markets. And we want to do that before, as we prepare for the opening of the JSE for trade on this Friday. We'll try and get her back on the line in a moment.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
We do have Ndauling Lechela on the line. Ndauling, I was saying, as Eskom found out, maintenance is needed over the years, of course. Maintenance is needed, but at the same time, it can mean that your productivity and production is not quite what it should be. And this is the case with Mondi, and it's showing in their numbers.
You're absolutely right, Silas. And Mondi did warn investors in the previous quarter, but it still seems like their numbers have shocked markets. They've reported lower earnings in the third quarter due to, of course, that planned maintenance shutdown and forestry fair value losses. Earnings declined 36% to 4.4 billion rand from the previous quarter, mainly due to a 1.7 billion rand hit due to, of course, those maintenance losses as well as forestry losses. In addition to that, it dealt with softer seasonal demand for some of its products and higher input costs. Despite challenges, though, Mondi saw benefits from earlier price increases in corrugated packaging and flexible packaging, but pulp and paper prices declined in uncoated fine paper after initial gains. Looking ahead, the company CEO Andrew King expects fewer maintenance shutdowns and a seasonal demand pickup in the fourth quarter. Mondi's expansion projects, including investments in paper machines, remain on track and are expected to make big contributions to earnings from next year. Just last week, Mondi closed a deal and acquired Western European assets from Schumacher Packaging, expanding its European footprint and e-commerce offerings. Europe has become a very important market for Mondi as it now makes the biggest contributions in terms of revenue and profit.
And in other company news, and along the same vein, CMH, Combined Motor Holdings, also reporting that their profits are declining.
A really tough 6 months for Combined Motor Holdings, that's the company that owns car dealerships across the country and runs car rental services, experiencing results of a tough macroeconomic environment. Now, that reporting period is from March to August, including volatile periods like the uncertainty around the national election, where we saw people not making as much big-ticket purchases, and also came before rates were cut. Now, in that period, profits declined by double digits, with headline earnings falling 32% to 134 million rand. The group, valued at about 2.7 billion rand, faced significant headwinds, including an 8% decline in new vehicle sales and a 7% drop in used vehicle sales. Intense competition from cheaper Chinese imports and lower demand before South Africa's election further weighed on the group. Despite these challenges, though, CMH reported some positive signs. Used vehicle margins showed improvement and fleet levels stabilized. The successful launch of Photon-like commercial vehicles also provided a boost. Now, the company expects improvement in the coming months, but concerns remain, including the high unemployment rate, and they've also cited Eskom's electricity price hikes as negatives to their functions, but these negatives are expected to be offset by interest rate cuts, fuel price cuts, as well as a stronger currency.
Lastly then, Dowling, what kind of a Friday are we in for in the markets here at home, but also in parts of the world?
As we wrap up the week, the JSE is likely to open in the green following upbeat economic data out from international peers. There's not much news on the local front today, so traders really focusing on what's playing out on the international front, especially earnings season there. In currency markets, the rand set to end another week on the back foot as the dollar trends higher. It's sitting at 17.60 to the greenback at the moment. In Wall Street, futures are flat. Traders really gearing up for tech earnings, with Alphabet, Amazon, and Tesla releasing results early next week. And then over in Asia, stocks are on track to end on the high as positive economic indicators boost sentiment.
There you have it. You've been briefed on the state of the economy, business, and the markets. That's Ndauling Lechela there. Have yourself a great weekend, Ndauling. She's been watching that front for us throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
My name is Bonolo Motuba. I'm 17. My school was far from home and my parents were spending large amounts on transport. That's why they moved me to UCT Online High School, and it's been amazing. With savings on transport and uniforms, I was able to get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
You could win big when you play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 65 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 9 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 56 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Is alcohol affecting your work? Is alcohol affecting your family? Is alcohol affecting your relationships? Visit aasouthafrica.org.za or call 086 143 5722. With Alcoholics Anonymous, you need never stand alone again. This is a SABC supported initiative.
The Morning Brief, weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
At 8:45, let's take this story now. The Parliamentary Budget Office, PBO, will this weekend host a 2-day hybrid roundtable to enhance members of Parliament's capacity to use the multidimensional Poverty Index for oversight purposes. The event aims to foster knowledge sharing on poverty measurement and reduction strategies. It's a lot of big words. Let's try and get to the bottom of what this is all about. I'm joined now by Dumisani Yankis, who is the Director of the Parliamentary Budget Office. Good morning to you, Mr. Yankis. I've got to thank you for your time. As I say, to me it sounds like a lot of big words, but to you there are concepts and realities behind those big words. So let's start with the multidimensional poverty index. What is that?
So much, and good morning to your audience as well. Thanks so much for the opportunity. I think just a quick context here is that when you look at where we are as a country, we had post-democracy few years where government fought to be done away with apartheid structures. A few years later, established government to try to ensure that it delivers social services. And in 30 years down the line, we see now we're sitting in a state where Israel needs to start doing things differently in government perspective. Multidimensional, so that's the context where this discussion is taking place. Multidimensional poverty index is really the indices that try to assess poverty beyond income. So in many senses, in a conventional way, we've seen poverty being defined as where people don't have income. But I think there is a sense, when I look at the literature international benchmarking and experience, that actually poverty strikes households in different ways. So multidimensional, look at different dimensions of poverty, largely looking at education, health, and cost of living in particular, whereby you say aggregate of deprivation of these key dimensions may say a lot about the level of poverty individual or household is experiencing, but also dealing with those in a way can also enhance household without necessarily providing income in particular. So that's a really sensitive debate discussion we're having. But want this to be one way where a true considered by Parliament oversight in the next 2 years, particularly with sitting with in a new Senate administration in this regard.
I see. So it looks at the dimensions and manifestations of poverty beyond the factor of income. But who compiles it?
Well, countries, the multidimensional poverty network is an international platform which links the United Nations, which has developed this model over the years. But now countries have respectively adopted this and look at this. And our South African National Statistics Office has actually developed a model like that, which is called SAMPI, South African Multidimensional Poverty Indices, which in a way, the debate also we're having here is to say how much of the policy planning and budget planning in our country in particular has used that model as a way of ensuring better allocation of budget in realizing some of these poverty issues that we're dealing with in our country.
So how does it assist members of parliament carry out their duties better, particularly their oversight duties better, once they know how to interpret the index and apply it? How does that make them better parliamentarians?
Again, the questions that our constituents are asking Parliament is say, look, we are seeing that we are spending money. Government, you're allocating money as a Parliament, but we still don't feel the difference in our situation in the society and so on, and also in the economy. So our view and understanding that having this tool being the central of budget allocation would enable Parliament, because remember, Parliament allocates budget, would enable Parliament to ensure that the allocation of the budget is better aligned to aspirational reducing some of these socio-economic challenges. So in a way, it can be an oversight tool, ensuring that, because today, in today's discussion, also as a sort of forward-looking as well, it can be a forward-looking tool where we say, okay, what are the scenarios that we could consider if we allocate budget in this particular way? Can we see in 10 years' time, will this lead to decline in poverty in multidimensional sense of it? So our role as a budget office is to provide that analysis that say, this is a multidimensional situation, poverty situation in South Africa. So these are the scenarios that could consider as Parliament in allocating budget to these areas, and this is likely to be the outcomes over the next 2 3 years or 5 years time. Yeah, that's how we see it as an oversight tool.
Without wanting you to cross boundaries and wade into political waters, Mr. Jantjies, just for a practical example, what we are talking about here, would it include, for example, the debate that's ongoing right now about budget cuts that are affecting education departments in various provinces? Is that the kind of thing that you are hoping would inform the thinking of parliamentarians as they approach issues such as those?
Absolutely, it's part of the debate. Okay. I think what we've said over the time, Dr. Simelane, is that we have been concerned that there has been a clear trend in growing divergence between the budget framework on one side and policy planning on the other side. So our view is that such models will enable us to bring the convergence between the two, ensuring that there's a better budget allocation and enabling Parliament to realize social aspirations that are set out over the years that we have. And of course, the issue here is not drawing specific functions, but broadly within the budget framework as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, thank you for that. Dumisani Jantjies is the director of the Parliamentary Budget Office. I must say, I'm much more informed about this tool that you are talking about, that you want MPs, Multidimensional Poverty Index, and how members of Parliament can use it to inform their thinking and their approach, really, to issues of policy and budget expenditure.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's shaped as not a bad Friday around Gauteng highways. Midrand is clear now. If you're coming from Pretoria, no major obstructions, no noticeable build-ups either. It's a pretty good time through Midrand down towards Buccleuch and into Joburg. The N12 from Protea Glen and Lenasia queuing up towards El Dorado Park on your way to Joburg, and the R21 queuing towards the Benoni exit, leaving the airport. That's some road works that are causing problems there. Major delays out of Pinetown coming into Durban. Big crash at Paradise Valley. Unfortunately, it's after the N3 and M13 routes have merged, so both of those routes under pressure. N3 from the M7. M13 is now back beyond St John's Avenue. So if you're around Pinetown, you've got options to get out the M7 down to the N2, N2 north through Spaghetti Junction into Durban via the N3. That looks okay. That's clear this morning. The M19 is your other option out through Claremont, New Germany, Reservoir Hills onto the mighty Umgeni Road. So a lot of options to avoid Paradise Valley on your highway routes into that crash scene. Cape Town fairly busy today. The N1 from Plattekloof down to the city centre. M5 from Rondebosch all the way through to Kuiper. Get a change, jam-packed. Crash at M3 inbound Paradise Road in the Bishop's Court area, so that run up and down Wynberg Hill stays busy, and Marine Drive still queuing as you come to the problematic lights at Loxton Road, Woodbridge Island side at Milnerton. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Myths versus facts. I'm too young to get breast cancer. Many women under age 40 are diagnosed with breast cancer. Men can't get breast cancer. 1 in 922 men have a lifetime risk of breast cancer. I have never had children and can therefore not get breast cancer. Women who haven't had children or only had them after 30 have an increased risk of breast cancer. Breast Cancer Awareness Month on SAFM. Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let's have the conversation that moves us and make the most of the remaining minutes on this show. Let's take some of your calls now. Let's start with Sandy in KwaZulu-Natal. Sandy, good morning to you. We took a call earlier on that was talking about just the clarity of information and ensuring that it's official coming from SASSA. I see you want to respond to that call that we took a bit earlier on.
Yes, thank you so much. But I just want to thank even the caller for the question so that one gets to clarify really what granting aid is. Granting aid is a top-up grant that is given to not everyone, but those who are receiving a disability grant or who are receiving an older person's grant. But these people, the criteria is that these people who are receiving these grants should be no longer able to do things on their own. Therefore, it means you can't wash your clothes, you can't cook, you always have a caregiver who's with you at all times. Those are the people who can apply for a granting aid, and the process is simple. You simply need to see your doctor, you need to get a referral or a letter from the doctor stating that because of your condition, you are unable to do things on your own. You then go to SASSA. Let me explain that SASSA does have contracted doctors. This is the reason why we have these contracted doctors is because we need a second opinion. Because we cannot trust everything that is brought by customers because we know and are aware of the fraud and corruption that happens within the social grant system. Right. The person then books to see a doctor, and the doctor then obviously checks, does their investigation to check, examination to check if indeed this person really qualifies. If they do not qualify, right. I want to inform listeners that you actually have a right to submit or request for SASSA official to guide you in terms of an appeal process that you should follow. Right, that if you are unsatisfied with the result from the outcome.
Just confirm for me, Sandy, are you an official of the Department of Social Development or SASSA?
I'm an official of SASSA in KwaZulu-Natal dealing with communications and marketing. I simply received a call from someone who said, Sandy, yes, please explain immediately because someone has called and wanted more clarity.
Thank you for that responsiveness. That's Sandy out in KwaZulu-Natal there talking all things to do with social grants, particularly the grant in aid. Patrick in Pietermaritzburg, also you want to talk about the land issue in Zimbabwe. Good morning to you.
Kunjani.
Yaphila kunjani baba?
Yep. Sure, Thulasizwe, just to correct you, there was no land reform in Zimbabwe. It was a land grab, my brother. It was, of course, a land grab by ZANU-PF in 2000, where they were killing the white farmers and destroying the infrastructure of the farmers, telling them to get off in 24 hours. So there was never a proper land reform program, Thulasizwe.
Yeah, I hear you, Patrick. I'm framing it that way because as far as the government in that country is concerned, it became the land reform program. And I hear what you're saying, that there was an element of, Initially, it wasn't politically led in a proper way, but the government then quickly latched onto it and actually turned it into a program of land reform. And I appreciate the attendant violence incidents that did occur during that process.
Thank you, Thulasizwe. Have a good day, sir.
You too. Thanks, Patrick. That's Patrick in Pietermaritzburg. Let me take a call from Mike in Newlands. Mike, good morning. You want to talk to me about the President's question time in Parliament yesterday?
Good morning to the Thulasizwe. I do indeed. Yeah, it's just such a strange sight. I never had any answers to the questions, but it did present a picture of where I think South Africa is at the moment. You know, we had in the committee chair there, Cedric Froelich. He currently appears on page 205 of the book, Inside the Belly of the Beast, where Greasy makes the allegations that he received 40,000 rand. He's currently, it slipped into his pocket. He's currently being investigated. He's sitting in the seat where Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nkukula, who lied to Parliament when she hired Skolani George, you'll remember, and she said he's only going to be hired at 2.2 million, now earns an incredible 4.3. Ironically earns more than the president, who was actually talking to us yesterday, which is just ridiculous. And then, of course, the very lady, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nkukula, has now been suspended and is currently being charged with corruption. And then I thought to myself, there stands the president himself in front of us, taking questions on how he's put $500,000 into his couch, which we didn't get an answer. And that question to the Thulasizwe is being asked by a disgraced, impeached Judge Slopey.
Yeah.
Sitting next to him is Julius Malema. And the only person I didn't see there was the deputy president, but he too is also being investigated. And I just wondered to myself, wow, where as a country are we going?
Mike, thank you. Let's leave it there. That's Mike in Newlands. Let me very quickly, take a call from Zoe out in the Eastern Cape. Zoe, sharp and short, you want to talk about Soma Dotafigeni?
Yes, good morning, Thulas.
Please go ahead. Yep.
In your interview with Professor Fig, that I missed, got cut off my radio, interrupted. You asked a question about a deviation from the minimum qualification requirements. Could you clarify what was that about?
All right, Zoe, I've got that. There were requests that were made by three ministers, including Minister John Steenhuisen and Phemi Majotina and I believe Gwede Mantashe, that they wanted to appoint people who did not have the minimum requirements, and the Minister Nkosi Mzamo Buthelezi turned those down, and Professor Soma Dotafigeni is saying they welcome that decision that was made by the Minister of Public Service and Administration. That's how we come to the end of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening, and thanks to the team that put it all together. The Talking Point is up next after the news. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, police found rifles possibly linked to Thulasizwe massacre, and more than 9,000 businesses closed down in Johannesburg. Good morning. Police believe they've made another breakthrough in the investigation into the gunning down of 18 people in Ngobazana village in Thulasizwe in the Eastern Cape. The investigating team has recovered 3 AK-47 assault rifles and a high-caliber rifle. 2 people have also been arrested for being in possession of the rifles. 4 men will appear in the Thulasizwe Magistrates Court today in connection with the massacre. They were arrested in Port Shepstone in KwaZulu-Natal earlier this week. National Police spokesperson Ethlenda Mathe says the high-caliber firearms have been taken in for ballistics testing to determine whether or not they were used in the commission of the crime.
that led to the killing of the 18 Lusikisiki victims. Through intelligence and meticulous detective work, the high-caliber firearms were recovered on Thursday evening. They include 3 AK-47 automatic rifles and a 243 Steyr Melchilla rifle. Preliminary investigations indicate that the firearms were moved to another location after the killing of the Lusikisiki 18. 2 more suspects have been arrested after they were found to be in possession of these rifles. The pair was arrested in Flagstaff in the eastern.
The Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industries says more than 9,000 businesses in the city have closed down since the beginning of the year due to the high crime rate. It has blamed financial pressures due to the ailing economy for the business closures. Security experts say crime syndicates are now increasingly targeting businesses with high-value assets such as expensive equipment, including generators. The Chamber's president, Connie Mashaba.
Especially small businesses really closing down, suffering. The last time that I heard the stats, we had about over 9,000 businesses going under liquidation, in this year alone. We need to have something happening in the city. We need Johannesburg, renewal of the city, because when you go to the city, anyone doesn't feel safe and comfortable. So you can imagine what it does to business.
Political analyst Kenneth Mokgatle says mass resignations from the EFF are expected to continue following the departure of the party's deputy president Floyd Shivambu. Earlier this week, former public protector and EFF MP advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane announced her resignation from the party, citing a lack of numbers in parliament and wanting to spend more time with the family. Yesterday, another EFF MP, Fana Mokoena, announced his resignation, giving unclear reasons. Mokgatle says their resignations are not shocking.
We are expecting more of them to leave after the National People's Assembly, that is the elective conference of the EFF that will be held in December. But it has been said that many people are not happy within the EFF. There's great differences where people are not happy, they are not able to raise their own opinions. The only opinions that matter are the opinion of a leader. We know about the contentious issue of immigration policy, which have made many people unsettled within the EFF because it costed them in the last elections.
The family of the late former Judge Willem Heath says it will hold a private cremation service for him today. He died in Cape Town last week at the age of 79. Heath's son, Marinus, says a memorial service will be held next week. The late former judge has been described as a pivotal figure in the fight against corruption in South Africa. President Cyril Ramaphosa has paid tribute to Heath. Senators in Kenya have voted to remove the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua from office, this despite his failure to testify at his impeachment trial after his lawyer said he'd been taken to hospital. He's accused of corruption, inciting ethnic divisions and undermining the government. He has denied all the charges. The BBC's Anne Soy reports.
The Deputy President was due to appear before Senate for cross-examination, but he did not show up, and his lawyer said that he'd been taken ill with chest pains. But Parliament said that they were not going to postpone the hearing, and they went to a vote and upheld 5 counts out of the 11 that the Deputy President was facing. So it is an unprecedented vote in this country. It's the first time that a Deputy President has been removed through Parliament.
Recapping the top story, police believe they've made another breakthrough in the investigation into the gunning down of 18 people in Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. The investigating team has recovered 3 AK-47 assault rifles and a high-caliber rifle. 2 people have also been arrested for being in possession of the rifles. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
#SAFM Talking Point.
Spring is in the air and it's almost time for SA Garden Day on Sunday, 20 October.
Celebrate your garden with a tea party, a luncheon, or simply lying down with a good book. Invite friends, family, or neighbors to appreciate your garden. Visit gardenday.co.za for ideas and inspiration. And remember to upload your flower crown selfie to social media, the ultimate Garden Day accessory. Mark your calendar. SA Garden Day, Sunday, 20 October.
This summer, we have extra large offers on Ford Ranger XL, XLT and Wildtrak from only $481,900 for a Ranger XL single cab 4x2. It's the extra large Ranger offer from only $481,900. Visit your nearest participating Ford dealer. Optional service plan included. While stocks last. T&Cs apply.
The reality is that 90% of South Africans don't save enough for retirement. This National Seniors Month, why not be part of the 10% who do? Choose an interest rate of up to 11.7% after 60 months with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. Anyone 55 and over can open one on the Money app in less than 2 minutes. Go to nedbank.co.za for more info. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Show your older car and your wallet some love with Outsurance Essential. Outsurance Essential is insurance for older cars. Get up to 1 million rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. And what better than the damage to a vehicle being paid out in cash? Enjoy this and loads more great benefits at a low price. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's and information online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
One of my most painful moments of rejection happened when I was in the 3rd grade. I wanted to be popular, to be liked, to be loved, and to be respected. And thankfully I was. I was in an advanced learning class, which meant that I was one of 2 black students in an all-white class. And this wasn't a bad thing. I was known as the cool big black kid. They called me Goon. I was one of the smartest kids in the class. People cheated off my tests. They laughed at my jokes. Life was great. Until one day, as I was returning back to class from a bathroom break, I noticed a group of black students circled together, laughing hysterically. Me being the confident, charismatic, outgoing guy that I was, I decided I was going to go over to them and get in on the jokes. So I walked over to these students and I said, "Hey, y'all, what's so funny?" No one answered. I spoke up. "Man, what y'all over there laughing about?" And just as I was finishing my sentence, one of the guys in the group turned towards me and said, "You're what's funny, white boy." The crowd erupted in laughter, and I, feeling embarrassed, ashamed, and rejected, returned to my class to soon learn that I was known in our school as the black kid that talks and acts white. I allowed that moment of rejection to diminish my confidence and my self-esteem. Rather than celebrate my own uniqueness, I began a long journey of changing who I was to fit in with this black community. I changed the way that I dressed, the way that I talked, the music I listened to. I even changed the way that I laughed. I started skipping school, selling drugs, and making poor decisions, all because I wanted to gain their approval and their acceptance. And you know what? It worked. They accepted me. They embraced me. I got street cred. But deep down inside, I knew it wasn't me who they accepted. It was who I was pretending to be. And the more they adored this false version of me, the more rejected the real me felt the entire time. You see, I didn't understand that sometimes rejection is projection, a projection of someone's own fears and insecurities onto another person. Those students who made fun of me were deeply insecure. They were unsure of themselves. They were afraid to do anything outside of what their peers thought was acceptable. And because they didn't know how to be their unique selves, they projected their fears and insecurities onto me in the form of mockery and jokes. Because sometimes talking bad about others makes people feel better about themselves.
Sure, Daryl Stinson, as you heard there, quite a dynamic motivational speaker, a former Division 1 athlete and founder of Second Chance Athletes. Welcome to The Talking Point. I'm Kathy Mutlatlana, leading the conversation with you this morning until midday as we wrap up the week that has been. What a week it has been. I don't know why. It has just flown past. Things are... Are you feeling the end of year fatigue yet? Is it getting to you yet? One certainly gets the sense that we still have 2 more months to go, but I feel like I'm ready now. I'm ready now for the year to end. But nonetheless, grateful that we still get to be in each other's company. My producer Lebo says the malls are already promoting Christmas. Really already? Aren't we still in October? Is it not too soon? I think it might be too soon, but then again, we're going to be having Black Friday, right, towards the 1st of November. So maybe that's why, Lebo. But yeah, marketing campaigns for the malls that want to make sure they try and push up their sales ahead of the end-of-year holidays. Well, coming up on the show, we'll kick it off with the open line. I'll be taking your calls on 086 000 2032 is the number to dial, 086 000 2032 as we lead the conversation. Lots for us to talk about and reflect on. Yesterday, of course, the President was in the National Assembly answering questions. I'll take your reflections on that. Of course, he had to answer some questions on some pertinent issues, among them being, the functioning of the government and of national unity, being asked about the tensions that exist, especially when we look at what is happening at a national level versus what is playing itself out at a provincial level. And in fact, yesterday on Municipal Watch, when we focused on the KwaDukuza municipality in KZN, it was very clear that the tensions around what the national officials and the national agreements between the ANC and the DA and the spirit around that certainly is not organically filtering down to the provinces. We've seen what has happened in Gauteng, but I would say that KwaZulu-Natal is another province to watch very closely, especially when I think about what the different officials of the political parties in that province had to say. So part of the conversation were Action SA, the EFF, the Democratic Alliance, and one certainly gets the sense that there could well be some ructions there when it comes to the kind of allegiances that are formed, especially when it comes then to forming councils or coalitions at a local level. The President, of course, wouldn't be drawn on some of what is happening locally, but just said, what they need to be doing is learning from what is happening at a national level. I wouldn't say that what is happening in the EFF is at a point where we can describe it as an exodus yet, but certainly an increasing number of individuals, in particular high-profile members and leaders, continue to leave the organization. I see many people are already starting to write the obituary of the party, right? They're saying, this is it. They must close shop and call it a day. What do you think about the impact of losing these leaders, the impact that it will have on the EFF, and what do you think they need to do in order to turn the situation around? Can it be salvaged, or is it going to be a case of continuing then to lose individuals? It certainly sounds like the party's prepared for that when you listen to what their spokesperson had to say in the news, saying they expect even more resignations following the conference they'll be having later on this year. So happy to take your calls on whatever issue you want to put on the national agenda. Coming up on the show today, 10 o'clock, we're going to be in conversation with the newly appointed General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, that is Reverend Mzwandile Molo. We'll be talking about the state of the country, but also the role that organizations like the SACC see themselves playing in strengthening our society. We know just how significant a role that this particular group played in the fight against apartheid and even in the establishment of this democracy. But where are they now, and how much of a voice do they continue to have in our society? That's what you can expect in the second hour of the show. And then the final hour, it is, of course, my favorite hour of the week. It's the Friday Wind Down, and this will be your guest.
Dumelang SAFM listeners, it's Gwenna here, South Africa's very own creator and musician. Join me on Friday at 11 a.m. as I converse with Kathy Mohlahlana on The Talking Point. I'll be sharing more about my latest album, released titled Hola Peu, my journey as a creative, and so much more. Tune in and join the conversation. Love and light, Hola.
It takes time. It takes time. It takes time. Be patient with you. It takes time. Be gentle with you.
My name's Michael Fontaine. I'm 16. I have difficulty paying attention in class, so I fell behind. That's why my parents moved me to UCT Online High School. I can't thank them enough. Their flexible learning means I can take classes when it suits me, so I get ahead and stay ahead. Visit uctonlinehighschool.com to learn more. Applications close 29 November 2024.
You could win big when you play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 65 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 9 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 56 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom. This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
After an impressive run in their first 5 matches of the 2024-25 season, collecting 18 points each, both La Rochelle and Bordeaux-Bègles are pumped up with high energy and eagerness to elevate their winning mentality to the highest level. Witness the collision of two giants, the top 14 rugby contest between La Rochelle and Union Bordeaux-Bègles on Sunday, 20 October at 9 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Talking Point with Kathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Sister Bettina. All right. In the meantime, oh shit!
Now to the leg side it goes. They're looking to win, and South Africa have reached Fortress Australia. The Proteas have defeated one of the most dominant teams in sporting history. Before today, they may have been seen as unlikely winners, but now have a chance to do something that no other Proteas team has done before. They have a chance to lift a T20 World Cup trophy as they beat Australia for the first time in a T20 World Cup match. and today by 8 wickets. A dominant performance by South Africa in this chase. They've absolutely bossed this. Incredible scenes for South Africa.
I think this is one of the best wins of my cricketing career for sure. A couple of other girls have said it as well. Yeah, I think that was such an amazing chase. Annika batted excellently, bowlers did excellent, so yeah.
You've found a little bit of a formula, haven't you? This year alone, you've beaten them twice now in T20s. First time ever in a World Cup, also in an ODI as well. What is it that you've brought out in this team?
Yeah, I think it's been a good year for us. I think it's been a real collective group effort. I think obviously with them being the side that they are and always winning, you're always looking at ways to sort of find a bit of a weakness, so maybe spend a bit more time analysing them than other teams. I'm glad some of the plans worked today, and I felt like our bowlers did excellently to restrict them.
All they do is win, win, win. The Proteas women, I mean, how was that upset, right? The biggest in the history of a T20, of the T20 World Cup, the Proteas women beating the 6-time champions, Australia women, by 8 wickets. That semi-final being held in Dubai last night. And of course, this opens the door of new possibilities for them. So there you heard the voices of commentator Natalie Germanus and also from our very own captain Laura Volvaert, and that audio courtesy of the International Cricket Board and SuperSport. Well, kudos to the Proteas women, giving us another reason to fly the South African flag up high. Well done. What a bunch of winners. Okay, let's go then to the open line. I'm taking your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. 086 000 2032 on the WhatsApp voice note line. 0614 104 107. It's your national round table. Martin, you're in Polokwane. Good morning.
Morning, Kathy.
Yes.
I want to make a contribution on the GNU.
Go ahead,
and
sir.
Start by saying that the goal of South Africans for a non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous country was never expected to be a smooth ride. And voters have voted the way they did out of some experience. Spoilers are stealing and killing. Foreigners are coming here hoping for a life better than in their own country. Citizens are waiting and working for their dream. And right now we have a government that is made up of, I just want to cite the ANC, the PAC, the DA, the Free Front. These are parties that you never thought they could work together. And I think they are doing well. Now, what critics should be looking at is that let us respect the right of the voters to vote the way they did, to force us to work together despite our differences, but work in the national interest. And up to now, I think we are holding in, we are stable, things are going well, the rand is stabilizing, the price of commodities may be going down very soon. Let's hope for the better and give our support to the GNU.
Yeah, and Martin, yes, fine, nothing wrong with wanting that stability and supporting, this government that has been formed. I guess one of the things is to watch carefully where there are disagreements and how those play themselves out, especially at local government. Again, reflecting on this conversation we had for Municipal Watch yesterday in Guaduguza, where the ANC has recalled its mayor. The mayor is refusing to leave. The DA says it won't work together with the ANC. But there's a lot of political games at play. And one doesn't always get the sense that it's truly the interests of the people that is being put at heart when all of these parties have to come together and find consensus and build some form of consensus.
Yeah, I think, Katie, we come from a divided past where we think that working dividedly, working separately works. But we need to now ask a very important question. What is our national interest? What is it that we are here for? in whose interest are we occupying the positions that we are occupying?
Mm.
You know, forget about the differences. Let's look on what brings us together. You know, there are countries like China that took more than 100 years to build a country. Even the U.S., up to so far, it has not really come to that stage, but it is far ahead of a lot of countries that have tried to build a country. And we are just starting. And certainly when we start, we are likely to be tempted to be focused on narrow interests like party political interests. You know, councillors must go and serve their communities. Councillors must be worried that there's a pipe that has been leaking for 3 days, not 3 weeks, but 3 days. And even municipal employees must be worried that I'm going to work, I'm in the electricity department, but there's a pipe leak over there. On arrival or even on my way, I've got to call my colleagues in the water department to come and fix the pipe.
Okay.
It does not have to go that long. And it is the responsibility of all of us. And in that way, we will be putting focus on building a country, not looking at narrow party political interests.
All right, Martin, thanks for that contribution. Martin out in Polokwane. And I must say, some of the feedback we had to that conversation yesterday, one of our listeners said, you know, he's just hearing a lot of egos. And unfortunately, sometimes that is the case, right? When personalities are and whether their personality clashes or not, but those outweigh what the substantive matters on the table are, what the real focus of the discussion or of the issues should be. And you can hear it in people's tones. You can hear it in the side jabs. You can hear in how they're interacting with each other. Gift, good morning.
Good morning, Casey. And good morning to your listeners.
Should we begin by making a disclaimer, Gift?
You don't have to make a disclaimer. Because actually, most of the time I speak for the ANC, and I must say, without any fear of contradiction, Kate, that we welcome the crime efforts, the fight crime efforts in the province, since the deployment of the many teams in the province that include your TRT, your tracking teams, your special investigators, your detectives, your hawks, the National Intervention Unit, which we have, by the way, in the province. And I think we must say we welcome these successes that have been registered in the arrest. And the breaking news this morning is that the 2 remaining suspects that we were told by the minister yesterday that they were at large, they were arrested in Flagstaff, and high-caliber weapons were found with them in their possession, whom we think they are linked to the 18 murders, those many women that were killed so mercilessly, so horrible in Lusikisiki on that fateful day, Kathy. Look, Kathy, I think to us as the ANC is the fact that the work of SAPS has led to many operations in the province. You will recall, Kathy, that there have been cases of extortions in areas like your Mthatha, your Nqeleni, your Kumbu, your Tsolo, your Kobokobo, your Kabeja, and Namakwe, and in some many parts of the province. And I think those covert operations and weekly high-density operations by SAPS has led to many arrests of many criminals whom we view as very dangerous and hardened. And I think we are of the view that this crime intelligence information remains central in the taking down of these armed and ruthless gangs, because, I mean, when you see those high-caliber weapons, you can see that these are people who are at war. And I think the crime intelligence operators, with the work of the many spies or informants units within SAPS, must continue to clamp down on organized crime linked to also the issue. Oh, I forgot, by the way, the issue of kidnapping also, and those insurance-related matters, because these are many breakthroughs that have been made by the police in collaboration with the Ministry of Community Safety, Comrade Mata, and the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu. Okay. And I think these decisive actions demonstrate absolute intolerance of crime, given this practical meaning of our commitment to eradicate the scourge of crime in all its manifestation. But I think in fact, the call that we're making to society is that they must work hand in gloves with these crime-fighting teams and all agencies of law enforcement to root out crime in our communities.
Okay, Gift, we'll leave it there. absolutely, their arrests are to be welcomed. But let's not also forget that in order to win the fight against crime, we need a lot more sustained crime-fighting initiatives and efforts over the long term. And that's what communities are crying out for. That's what they want. Yes, it's really great and commendable when police can act in the face of crisis, but how do we start bringing these high levels of crime down over the long term and not just be seen as responsive to what is happening? It's time for your latest news headlines. We'll continue with the open line on the other side of this.
Good morning. In the headlines, police say 3 more suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder of a first-year Stellenbosch University student. The 19-year-old student was robbed and stabbed earlier this week. Police believe they've made another breakthrough in the investigation into the gunning down of 18 people in Ngobazana village in Lusikisiki in the Eastern Cape. The investigating team has recovered 3 AK-47 assault rifles and a high-caliber rifle. 2 people have also been arrested for being in possession of the rifles. And political analyst Kenneth Mogadle says mass resignations from the EFF are expected to continue following the departure of the party's Deputy President Floyd Shivambu. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices are making our kids sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, leading to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they get older. We need to protect our kids from all sugary drinks. Demand a stronger health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Good morning, SAFM and all the listeners. Happy Friday. Hi, KT and your producer. I like to talk about those comrades who always blame that it's a politician agenda when they find out that is corrupt with something, and then they're trying to blame that it's a comrade, is fighting one another. Once you steal the money, you must know the consequences, that one day the hawks is gonna catch you. So I was very disappointed to Mr. Mabe. Pule Mabe, actually I was think that guy, he's a good guy. I couldn't even know that maybe he can be involved to the corruption. But now he seems like almost all the comrades is corrupt. But yeah, those people is disappointing us like serious. Thank you, Sia from Cape Town.
Good morning, Kathy. Congratulations to the Proteas women. What a stellar performance. Looks like we are doing well in cricket. I just wish that more sponsors can just come in and assist our cricket. Not just the women and also the men. They've been struggling. This will help in building and the grassroots cricket. Yeah, well done, girls.
Good morning, Katie. This is Peter here in Haswalter. Katie, in short, I beg to differ with this narrative of people chose this government of national unity. No, it is not the choice of the people. By the people not giving ANC the majority, it doesn't mean they wanted the government of national unity. Just take the total figure of people who registered to vote. Then you subtract the one who voted and then see what you left with. So which means the people are not happy. So Thabo Mbeki was right when he said, let's go to national dialogue. Let's go to the people and hear what the people say. The direction will come from there. But me, I beg to differ. The people didn't choose GNU. The people didn't vote. And they are unhappy. Thank you, Kitty.
Kathy Motlatlana on SAFM.
You're still listening to The Talking Point. It is the open line. I'm taking your calls. 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Bonakele, you are in Kailicha. Good morning.
A very good morning, Kathy. Long time no speaking to you, dear.
Yes, it has been a while. Great to hear from you.
Absolutely, especially going to weekend. Yeah, great show always. Listen, I want to talk about Judge Shop asking the President, Ramaphosa, to tell the truth about the Phala-Phala. So my only one advice is to give to all those who wants to talk about Phala-Phala now, is to really keep quiet about it, because there's nothing going to happen about Phala-Phala, whether they like it or not. The only time they must do that, it's when this president is out of that office, like Utapu Jacob Zuma, then they can start trying by all means that this president, Ramaphosa, should follow suit as to go to courts like Utapu Jacob Zuma. But for now, NPA made it very clear no one will be what is this? What's the name now?
Will be charged. Nobody will be charged. Yeah.
Not prosecuted. That is bad. You understand? So the last one about Malema and his party and the resignation of these high-profile people, as you call them. I mean, it was something that we expected it's going to happen. Look, all these recently formed parties, the likes of COPE, even this one, this Malema one, when they started, they had big numbers, so everyone was excited to join the new party with a lot of promises, especially with this one of Malema, talking so much, giving a lot of promises. For instance, before we go to the main elections, he was telling people that he's going to the union buildings. I mean, it's easy now. It's something that is not going to happen now. So all in all, everybody must accept that this is the way to go. So those who are writing the obituary of this party, they are very true. So all in all, that's something that is not surprising me as I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah, look, Bonakele, it does look like there's a lot of introspection and planning that the party will have to do if it is to sort of survive and recover from the impact of these resignations. Yeah.
The only thing they can do with regard, especially when you talk about, is to change the style of leadership of Malema. That's it. That's the only advice. The way he talks, he thinks he owns. He's the owner of the EFF party. So others...
Bonakele, did you read the MK policy?
Yes.
No, did you see the powers of the president in the of the MK party?
Same applies with the EFF. That is what is going to happen to them as well. So we are not surprised. The only party that is going to survive is the oldest one that we know about. The one that the ANC is not going to go anywhere. Those people that wish, praying, it must die, blah, blah, blah. But for people who are corrupt, I fully support. They must be charged. They must be prosecuted. I'm standing here telling everyone, whoever was said to be found like this Pulemabe and Zizikoto, all of them, they face the consequences of doing wrong things. So they are the ones who must face the consequences. Therefore, no one will ever be defended by me, so to speak. I'm a very outspoken someone. I'm not going to be loyal. Even with President Ramaphosa, hence I'm saying people must wait up until such time he's out of the office, then the law will play its role.
Okay.
That's the end of the